Hello there. Hello, Az. Wait, we won't put this. We'll get my man. Hello, Jay. How are we doing? Just gonna quickly get ready. We've got some people joining us. It's gonna be interesting, but the first topic of the day is gonna be Overwatch 2 will be 5v5. Okay. Right. Let's get this show on the road. Glad to know you're good. Let's get people in. Let's get... Okay, where's Arctic? Why is Arctic not on this list? Cool. I'm gonna message in this group. 3930, the Plushy Fox. Thank you for the follow. That should hopefully update on the thingy majiggy, if it decides to. That would be very cool. Be very cool. Just getting into the order of things. Okay, let me get my water. Actually, water is beyond essential for what we're going to be doing. There's going to be a lot of talking. But that is kind of the point, isn't it? That is kind of what we're going to go for. Hopefully a bit of conversation. We can hear me, right? Let's have a look. There we can. Huge. You love to see it. That stream chat is actually not great. I'm going to have the chat off the screen, but we'll keep it in the manager. So we'll be able to see that. That's cool. Okay. Arctic's in the spectates. Let's add him to the blue team, and let's add him to the group. And we should hopefully be able to start talking to people. People. Now we need the trophy chef. Let's get Arctic in. Yo, Arctic.
There we go.
How you doing, man? You alright?
Yeah, I'm good. How you doing?
Good, yeah, good. Can you invite Trophy? Have you got Trophy on your friends list?
I do.
Because for some reason, I do not have Trophy. Steak Slice, thank you for the follow. Much appreciated. We're going to try and keep alerts to a bit of a minimum as we're in the main conversations, but in between we might have a little shout out here and there. See how you guys are talking. But obviously talk amongst yourselves, enjoy the chat. It's all beautiful stuff that we're going to be talking about today. A lot of great things going on. There we are, just wait for Trophy. The slow coach, the slow chef. There he is, the on-time chef. Perfectly timed as always. Trophy! Oh, he's somewhere.
Yes.
he's somewhere. Quickly add him as a friend. Oh, the stream's gonna go very blue. I'm sorry, boys. 1 second. Add to friends. We'll wait for Trophy to get into the actual main voice part of the voice, but it will happen. It'll come. The blue stream of friends. Yeah, a big friendship blue stream. You love to see it. We've got a long list of topics to talk about today, boys. We're gonna have a great time when Trophy gets on the voice. We're waiting. What's like the trophy? What is the trophy chef like a mating call? How do we get him to come to the microphone? It's got to be just like a.
Just shout Germany.
Germany, yeah, that's gonna be it. We're gonna get Trophy on with Germany. There he is.
There you go.
Inspirational performance. There we are. Germany. On cue. How are you doing, Trophy? You right?
How are you doing?
We're doing great. We did our little mating call and you came running, so we're all ready to begin.
Yeah, worked first try.
Worked first try.
What? Worked what? What?
Basically, right, it's fine. You'll see it in the VOD, but it's okay. Right. Are we prepared? Are we ready? This is very exciting stuff.
Yeah.
There's huge scenes.
I know why I'm not hearing Sil, because I had him...
Wait, can you hear me?
Wait, why am I not hearing him?
Can you not hear me, Trophy?
Are you talking to him?
I was.
Have I muted Trophy Chef?
Why can I not hear him? Is he in the party chat?
No, he's here. I'm talking to him.
Why can't Trophy hear me? I can hear Trophy. Why can't Trophy hear me? What? Wait, hang on. What if I enable match chat? What if we do that?
Oh, that's why.
Oh, maybe.
Can you hear me? Trophy.
There we go. Good evening!
Trophy! Can you hear me?
Germany!
Hey, you can hear me. Okay, that's great. There we are. Right, round 3 of scuffed stream. We should be okay. Okay, we can all hear each other, right? This is something that's happening. We can all hear each other. We're all in a good place.
It's happening.
Okay, right. So, mic check. 1, 2, 3. Checking. We appear to be okay. We appear to be good.
Checking.
Right, so obviously I'm
Checking,
massively
checking.
excited
Sorry, it's cute.
for this. But alright, I'll take... Let's keep... I'm glad his mic's working. Alright. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 1 of the Need Healing podcast. And we have probably the most announcement heavy one that we're probably ever going to get, because this one, we've had quite the doozy, boys. We're going to be talking about the big Overwatch 2 announcements that was made by the beautiful people at the Overwatch HQ, the big dev team, big Aaron Keller, the Overwatch League casting team. I think Matt, Mr. X was on there, Jaws Cast, all of the boys are on there showing off Overwatch 2. And for those of you in the chat who may have seen it or may not have seen it, basically what they did is in this big unveiling announcement, they showed the new game modes, they showed new hero balances changes that they've made, different maps, lots of cool stuff about Overwatch 2. But one of the main things that they've shown, and that we're going to start off with when we talk about it, is that they've shown that Overwatch 2 is going to be 5v5, boys. They've put it in a format where there's going to be 1 tank, 2 DPS, 2 support, and that tank is going to be a lot more of a brawler-based tank, a lot more of a influential playmaker, take a lot less damage, give a lot less ult charge, but also make a lot more space. First impressions, what do we think? What do we think of 5v5 Overwatch? Any thoughts?
I have mixed feelings about it.
Mixed feelings, go on. Anything in particular?
I feel like there's gonna be a
Let
lot
me-
more pressure on the tanks to perform. Basically, just like if someone picks ball, for example, everybody's just gonna start shouting and bullying at them for picking ball. They would just want a shield.
True.
So like all the tanks, they're gonna have to prepare for a lot of bullying in comp, especially.
Oh my god, imagine. How about you, Trophy? Any thoughts?
Bully the tanks. Also mixed feelings, but more positive than negative in my opinion.
Oh, really? Okay. How come?
Yeah. Well, I was watching your Overwatch this morning. He has also had some mixed feelings about it.
I think I've seen the video, yeah. I've seen the one that you're talking about.
Yeah. Like Jesse said, more pressure on the tanks, but they're making a lot of changes. Also making supports better and more. Well, I'd say brawly, I guess.
Yeah, in a way.
So they can do more healing, do more damage output, hopefully. And I think in a way with the 5v5, they will make the game more balanced.
That is
they're
strange
removing one thing.
yeah. That is strange to think about,
Yeah.
isn't it? That by taking out a tank, they've actually made the game more balanced in a sense. But you're right.
Yeah.
There's an awful lot going on. It's not just tanks. I feel like people are very quick to, they see that a tank has just been taken off the face of the earth, and they're like, oh my god,
Yeah.
what are we going to do? Zarya Ryan is no longer a thing. But really, there's so many other changes that are going on. There's the DPS changes. They showed like the side by sides with Genji from Overwatch 1 running against Genji from Overwatch 2, and Overwatch 2 Genji is so much quicker, so much more diverse with movement options. And then they showed the passive abilities. I'm really interested in the passives on like the supports and the tanks, where knockback is massively reduced on tanks. Supports have got their own nerfed version of Mercy's current passive, where they get HP back over time, giving Mercy like this super passive where she basically just like gets pure Brig Inspire regen constantly, which seems pretty cool. And yeah, obviously DPS just move quicker. And I think that there's a lot that's going to go into the whole 5v5 meta that might shift things towards a certain direction. I'm personally really looking forward to see how comps like Dive are going to work, because like in a game where, in our game at the moment, in Overwatch 1, where Dive is already quite a fast-moving, fast-paced kind of meta, to see that with quicker heroes, more bulky tanks leading it, I don't know, it seems like something that could be really cool. What do you guys think in terms of like metas? What do you think? Is there anything that you think might be super duper strong, or any tank maybe that might dominate early days if they don't do massive changes? I know we haven't seen some of the tanks like Orisa. They said they're going to rework, but early days, early thoughts. What do we think might be super strong in a 5v5 kind of meta?
Well, I mean, as a Reinhardt player myself, I'm excited. 2 fire strikes. Come on.
Obviously,
And I can steer my charges instead of charging off the edge of the.
Cancelling charges, it looks really, really fun. I think, have you played there's a custom game out at the moment on Overwatch 1 where you can play kind of like a very scuffed version of Overwatch 2. You can play with Ryan with 2 fire strikes. It's got like a little meter that shows you the gauge, and you can cancel your charges. And my god, it's so much fun. Like cancelling a charge. It's just, honestly, if you get like the time in a practice, maybe get Classic to organize one. But it is so much fun because honestly, the amount you can do with like trying to bait out abilities from like Anna's, like fake a charge, bait out the sleep, and then throw 2 fire strikes into her. There's so much you can do with it. It really is really good.
Yeah, I think this Reinhardt will be more my style of Reinhardt.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you get to live a bit longer and not get booted around as much. The trophy Reinhardt comes to town.
And not charge off the wall. You know how it is.
Obviously,
roll.
obviously. How about you, Arctic? What do you think you're going to see meta-wise coming out of Overwatch 2?
I think we'll be seeing like a lot of new tactics for starters.
Yeah.
The push mode, for example, like there's always going to be like a Sombra going around just trying to push C9 everyone.
Can you imagine? Just moves the robot 400 meters in the background. Yeah.
In terms of abilities, I'm excited to see how many like new combos we can see. Other than that, yeah, I'm just really excited to try it. I'm looking very forward to it.
Obviously, with heroes like Zarya that we've seen have had big changes with it because obviously, and this is something that we're going to get to in a moment, is that the whole concept of the tank duo just doesn't exist anymore because without 2 tanks you can't physically have a tank duo. So Zarya becoming a lot more main tanky with 2 bubbles on a shared cooldown seems really different, obviously, but perhaps something that could work in a divey type comp. I remember in one of the little game modes that we played in a week practice, we had myself on Zarya and then the Mr. J Genji, as famous as that might be, but with 2 bubbles. Like with 2 bubbles on a Genji diving
on Genji, that's
not only does it make sure that he can get in and out like most of the time, but also like pretty much guaranteed 80 charge when a Genji dives in. I mean that's just insane, right? Like for Zarya.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's going to lead us more or less onto our first like mini talking point within the section, which I'm going to very slowly try and type out. And that is going to be the
mini talking points at the talking
our
point
first subtopic of the main topic. This is true. Okay, so our first talking point is going to be leading off to that kind of tank orientated conversation is off tanks. Are they going to be out of a job? Are we going to see off-tank players everywhere crying out because they can't play their normal style, have to adapt? Or do you think there's going to be any kind of like survivability for current off-tank players who are in a position to adapt and maybe become that kind of main tank style? What do we think is going to happen to, let's say, Hog, Sigma, Zarya, D.Va, these traditionally very main tank based heroes where you'd see like a Winston plus a D.Va or a Zarya to make it work, or obviously Rein Zarya is the classic, the famous one that everyone's crying about. But when it comes to off tanks, are we just never going to see off tanks again? What do we think?
Well, as an off tank myself, I've been crying a lot, that's for sure. But it's interesting to see how they can make ball into a more how do you say it? Add something to the tank. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes he doesn't actually feel like a tank. He just feels like someone who just runs around bashing people. That's what it feels like to me. I'm excited to see how they're gonna make one tank, off tank for example, just be doing all the work for all the tanks in general.
Right, yeah, and we've seen that this is going to be something that's going to be quite difficult for some tanks. Like even as a main tank, Orissa's really going to struggle. And the dev team have mentioned that Orissa's a tank they have to take a big look at, and she's not ready to be shown yet because they want to give her a huge, almost like 2018 Symmetra-esque rework to really bring her kit around to make her useful. And no, but I think a really interesting thought is that there's going to be tanks that I think are going to have huge changes to their characteristics that are going to kind of like define them in their own metas. Like Winston isn't going to be the same as Ball anymore. They're not going to be like the dive main tank. Maybe Ball's going to be a lot more of like a disrupty type tank with a lot more shields to try and keep him up so that he doesn't just get lasered down, but hopefully able to have his own kind of built-in role that he can have in that meta so that there's no instant way to just say that one's better than the other. Because I had a thought where I was worried that some heroes like Ryan or Winston, obviously you've had a couple tears over this Arctic, which we understand because off-tank players, Trophy and I have been quite the opposite, where as Ryan players, it's been like Christmas has come early 3 times in a row.
Germany!
Exactly. But we were thinking,
I'm ready.
Yeah, we were scared. Well, I was scared personally. I don't know how you guys would agree with this, but I was thinking that I was quite scared that some main tanks might just be always the more optimal pick. That why would you ever pick Ball when Winston's available, like this kind of thing. What do you guys think? Do you reckon they'll be able to do diverse enough changes to get each tank to be viable, or do you think there's going to be some tanks that are always just stronger?
I do think they have to make changes to the off tanks. They're gonna do it. Like, they can't not be not playable.
Yeah.
Or maybe even switch into DPS. You don't know.
Or maybe turn them into DPS. I mean, I might have the inverse. We might have the experimental card. Do you remember the April Fool's experimental when Mei became a tank? They just made her larger and gave her 400 HP. Hopefully we don't see anything quite like that, but it could be interesting to see.
That was ridiculous.
That was very ridiculous. I'm glad that didn't go live. I'm very glad they didn't push that one to live. But then again, some changes that they made. Yeah. Sorry, go on, Trophy. Yeah.
Yeah. No, they're just gonna have to make new changes, and off tanks just gotta adapt to the changes. That's it's part of the game.
True.
It's like I think what Meowdy said. You just have to adapt anyway to
that's
all the
true.
experimentals and stuff.
One thing that I've seen people worrying about is like when you talk about like super high rank gameplay, like let's say Overwatch League level, where you've got tank lines, like let's say you're looking at the San Francisco Shock and they've got Choyobin and Super who've played together for years now, but come Overwatch 2, those off tanks aren't going to exist. Do you reckon we'll see a lot of off tanks maybe in like the league formats? Maybe they might just lean towards more of a DPS-y playstyle, maybe give up on the tank line completely, or do you reckon that we'll see like teams keep a hold of those foundational tanks that they've always had and maybe just like mix up the roles every now and again? What do we think is going to happen on like the pro level with off tanks?
On the pro level, I think a lot of tanks are going to get dropped. That's for sure.
Really? Big cuts.
Or at that, or either they'll just move over to another role, DPS or support.
Because there's roles where
they're gonna have to.
Yeah, we've seen players like Choi, for example, like Choyobin. We've seen him play DPS in the past, but obviously with him being so incredibly good at Diva, the Shock have not really put him back there since. They've had players come in like Arns last year, who was just incredible, and those DPS have quite dominated that scene. And there's always the meme going around that tank players are just hit scan players that can't aim. So when you have Reinhardt players and Sigma players, if they're being asked to play DPS, all of a sudden it's like, yikes, what are they going to do? Some of them, I remember on Twitter there was a big cry out for off tanks, thinking like, off tank lives matter, not going to have a job in 2022. Big scares.
COVID is hitting them in a different way.
Yeah, they get hit multiple times in the same pandemic. Poor guys. But a point that I want to try and move on to, away from tanks a bit, because I think tanks have a large focus, and this kind of leads on to the idea that Arctic was saying about how they're going to have to change tanks like Ball to make them more viable. Because if you imagine a Ball as a solo tank in a comp in Overwatch 1, DPS just like Sombra just completely pretty much make it a 4v5 in that settings, don't they? So the question,
the enemy DPS just have like free reign on your support.
Exactly right. So the question that I want to ask is, do we think that in Overwatch 2 will DPS be the most dominant role again? Will they dominate? Because in Overwatch 1 you've got the... That was a very quick answer. I wasn't expecting you to be so prepared. But no, but I suppose...
Make it a little longer.
I suppose... No, but he's right in a way, isn't it? Because we can see it in... Boost the content, boys. Don't tell them we're boosting the content. No, but in Overwatch 1, we can see it, don't we? Where there's often the stigma that DPS and tank, usually in that kind of order, are the most impactful roles because of the damage and the carry potential. And then support kind of is somewhere in the back, just kind of existing, hoping not to be noticed. But I think what we do, hopefully when they do the changes to Overwatch 2, is they might try and balance tanks. I'm a believer. I'm on the believer side, where I hope that the tanks are going to get enough of a change to them where they'll be able to go toe-to-toe with the DPS. But Arctic, I mean, you're very adamantly in favour of DPS. Why do you think DPS are going to be quite so powerful again?
All I'm thinking right now is characters like Sim and Bastion that put out absurd shield pressure and damage, combined with like a Widowmaker up top, is going to like just absolutely destroy any team they come across.
True.
That's all I'm thinking. Like, the damage is going to be insane.
Yeah, I think damage is going to be really difficult to mitigate, especially when... Well, I mean, Trophy, what do you think? Where are your thoughts lying with this one?
Mixed, to be honest. Mixed, because they're still making changes. They're trying to balance everything out. So I do think DPS will dominate, but tanks will still be the heart and soul of the team.
Yeah, I think something that I'm worried about is
because they're making changes.
Yeah. I think something that I'm worried about is that when you get, probably in any rank of the game, I suppose, when you see like a Widowmaker or an Ashe that's really, really carrying, right? What's the solution always been? Throw shields in her face. Play Orisa Sig, play Ryan Sig, just throw as many walls in front of them as you physically can. But in Overwatch 2, and we've seen, and we'll get to maps in a little bit, but we've seen maps like Rio on that second point where it's just incredibly open. It's like a bar fight, right? There's going to be so much open space where you know, a Reinhardt on his own can't cover the whole map with his shield, right? So there's going to be always a sight line for Widow to poke. And when you get to, if you think like GM level, or even you know, high diamond level, or even, you know, a plat on the best day of their life kind of level, if a Widow's having a great game, there's not too much that it seems that we can do about it, unless the DPS are just purely fighting each other and the tanks kind of sit down with a cup of coffee on payload and watch it all happen. Like, what do we think? How are DPS going to get managed? Do we reckon that the tanks are actually going to be able to do it themselves, or do we think that it's going to be purely just DPS difference every game?
That was
I think
question.
It is a really hard one, isn't it?
I think it will come down to what abilities they will introduce in Overwatch 2. Like the double fire strike that Reinhardt has. Maybe you could, like, you know, just throw two fire strikes at a Widow, for example.
Yeah, just put some pressure on it, maybe.
Dead.
And have you seen the meme of the Winston scatter arrow? Have you seen that?
No.
Basically, what they did is in the announcement video, they showed Winston having this new ability, a bit of like a long range little Tesla shot that he'll shoot off, a bit like a hit scan kind of mechanic where he has just a bit of a longer range thing to try and clean up an enemy. It actually looks really good. But the placeholder icon that they used on the little his little ability screen was the old scatter arrow icon. So in the Twitch chat, everyone was panicking, like they've given Winston scatter arrow. Like, what are we going to do? Most OP tank in the game, but it's not quite scatter arrow. It's okay. It's not quite the same. But no, I think you're right. I think if there's abilities that they can put in, let's say Ball gets an ability, right? Let's say that something I was thinking is that give him like his grapple hook maybe is on like a never-ending cooldown. Like you could just always use it. I thought that could be quite fun. Might be a nightmare for stall comms, but can you imagine like a Ball constantly being able to zip around without any cooldown keeping him back? Or maybe give him an ability where he might be able to like produce a little like sonar scanning shot or something. You know, maybe like a sonic arrow, but like that revolves around him a bit. That, you know,
I would have loved
anything
that as an April Fool's thing.
So can you imagine? Like these are things that, well, I mean, at the moment it's Overwatch 2, it's 5v5. Anything in April Fool's seems really viable at the moment, especially since that diva buff went live. I don't want to get into that, but that diva buff, what were they thinking? Giving her the mech that just drops out from space and kills everything.
Having way too much fun.
Absolute nightmare.
I remember a game where with you, Sil, where I just picked diva, did the mech, then blow it up, and then booked the mech again. Got like 3-4 kills with that.
So I literally
wasn't I playing with Yuso when Rugby EMP'd and I just got a 3k with the...
Do you know what's funny? It's always when I'm playing with other people, I see it happen. Never once have I ever been in a position where I've had it happen like to me, as in like I've got it. It's always either me getting curb stomped by the diva, or I just witness it and it's beautiful. There's, I don't know, the tanks at the moment. There's been so many. Yeah, one day. Well, I mean, hopefully not. I don't want to join the dark side of the diva players that run around and try and get the 4 kills.
Join us.
Voice. Okay, but no, the next thing I want to talk about is like on a more general sense with the 5v5, is that do we think that this is going to be a good future change in terms of problems that are in the game at the moment? So I think a major thing that people are thinking about when it comes to Overwatch changes is like queue times, right? Like queue times always been a nightmare for DPS. You have to wait about 10-15 minutes with a pass nowadays to even get into a game. So what do we think this change to the overall format, the overall number of players could mean for the actual game itself? Do we think there's going to be any underlying changes that they may not have already said but might come with it? What do we think, boys? Yes, go on. Anything in particular?
Well, it's going to be a long queue again, I think.
Do you think so? Do you think it'll be a long queue again?
Well, yeah, since they removed
for DPS players for sure. Always DPS players.
Do you reckon? That's actually a really interesting take, because I had this really hot take, right? Well, I was thinking that actually there might be a world where by getting rid of tank as like a duo role and having it as a single queue, and again, this might be me just being papagered out of my mind, like super like pulling onto a point trying to make it work. But I think there's a world somewhere where DPS might look at tank and go, that just seems a lot more fun. You know, this guy gets to do the same damage as me and just never dies. Why don't we just all queue tank? And then maybe tank could be the role that takes 25 minutes to find a game, and DPS is in abundance somewhere else. Do you guys think that there's ever a world where that might be possible, where tank could be like the role that everyone wants to play all of a sudden, with new changes and more survivability, same damage? What do we think?
I don't see that happening right now. Because with the amount of characters, the DPS characters especially that there are right now, there's just too many options for people to choose from. Too many characters for people to have fun with on DPS already. So let's say they
this
go
is
over the tank and they
yeah.
don't really like playing tank.
But why don't people like playing tank? Well, why is it that people don't enjoy that?
I feel like it's because there's a lot of pressure for the tanks to perform and like push and take space and people for their healers.
Well, that's an interesting way of seeing it. Yeah, I suppose.
Some people just don't like that pressure.
Yeah.
I was one of them in the beginning, but now I'm chilling
Now I
out.
play Zarya, and now everything's okay. Because
Literally.
me and Trophy is the Rhine main. We still feel the pressure. It's okay. It still happens. I think that maybe
I play
it's
Zarya.
yeah. No, I know you do, but we are Rhine like mains. I suppose we might be fair to say.
Okay.
Maybe that could be a point of conversation. Is how do we think that the 5v5s are going to make main tanks feel? Because you get metas where, and we haven't really touched on this as a main subject, but perhaps we should do here, is that the dev team have said that they're going to make massive changes to CC, how crowd control mechanics are going to work in the game. We've already seen that Maze, normal, R2 beam isn't going to work the same as it does now, where it won't actually freeze you. It might do more damage, it might slow you down a bit, but it's never going to freeze you solid. So if we can expect similar things to happen to, let's say, McCree Flashbang, Brig Bash, these kind of staple meme CC mechanics that have always led a Reinhardt to die. I hope they don't nerf Brig again, but I mean, this is the world we're living in. I'm like a Brig PTSD survivor, just constantly seeing the patch
Brig
notes.
alone.
Oh my god, I remember there was a week. There was literally a week where they gave her 250 HP, took it away, gave it to her again, and then took it away again. Like within the space of like a month, they were like, "Oh, she's too good, too bad, too good." Oh, what a funny time. We won't even look at the Silvally career profile when it comes to Brig gameplay. We just won't. But
or mine.
or yours. Oh god, what a hero. Honestly, bless. But no, so with massive CC changes, do you think there's going to be a world where main tank is more appealing? Maybe even more appealing than off tank, because people, if you queue in your average, let's say your average gold plat game, which for the sake of argument we're going to say is the majority of players in the world, I feel like a lot of what we see nowadays is just Roadhogs and Sigmas who kind of want to just like live and do damage and play DPS and frag out a little bit and have a great time and don't really want to be the main tank because they can't be bothered to get stunned to death and not be able to do too much back. So maybe in a world where the main tanks have a bit more of a lifeline to cling on to, they're not shut down quite as easily and they've got a bit more survivability with like the Rhine changes that we've mentioned, maybe Winston having a bit more movement or a bit more HP, whatever they might try and do. Is there a world where that could flip and maybe, well, I know we're saying that off tanks probably won't exist because how can they? But more traditional main tanks, maybe more shieldy type tanks like Orisa, Rhine, Winston. I know Sigma's like on that kind of like grey area of is he a main tank, is he an off tank? But
Sigma's like right in the middle.
Yeah,
like,
we'll say for the sake of argument then that Sigma as well counts as one of those. Do we think that we're going to see a lot more of those kind of tanks, or do you think that in Overwatch 2 it's still going to be Hog, Zarya, D.Va, Ball, just everywhere? What do we think?
Well, I think it's really depending on what the team picks,
Do you think so? Because
if you want to be, if you're like playing against a team that has a Reinhardt and just, and you're gonna go super aggressive against it, just make shield just not exist. Pick a Roadhog, pick a Sigma, pick a D.Va for instance. Just double the damage on him.
And I suppose this is in a world where we're kind of hoping that the players are gonna, they're gonna think like that. They're gonna go, oh, okay, so this is what they're playing. Maybe we play this into it to try and get a better value. But are we really thinking that players are gonna think like that, or do we reckon they're gonna play just what they think is fun, just what they think is the most enjoyable, quick, easy, fun time hero for them on average? What do we think? Do we think that they're gonna lean towards the kind of team-based style, or do you think that now that they've given Ryan a pair of rocket boots that he can run around with, that they're just gonna say, here we go, this is game time? What do we think about that?
God. I think with so many changes, it's just.
It is very difficult.
God help us.
A lot of
because the tanks, removing one tank, it makes the other tank play more like a tank instead of a DPS. That's what they are going for with this.
True. Yeah.
But again with Hog and let's say D.Va. They can still play like DPS maybe in Overwatch 2. I don't know what they're changing about them. So
I saw a take from one of the casters during the Overwatch stream that they did for the announcements, and he said that he had an idea where to kind of go along with the changes that they're making to tank, maybe change the name from tank to something like brawler to try and like really give this mentality of they're supposed to be super aggressive, super physically, maybe not even too tanky for the rest of the team, maybe just like space makers, like pure brawly,
Yeah, like what we had at the beginning of Overwatch. We had tank heroes, defense heroes.
Yeah, exactly. Like when they
heroes.
changed from defense and assault to the DPS line in general. Yeah, that kind of thing. And they quickly moved Symmetra over,
good
hoping
old
no one
days
would
where
realise.
Sim was a
Sim support. Yeah, I was going to say quickly move Sim over, and hope no one realises that she's actually a DPS. Was a sneaky one, Jeff. We see you.
Oh, that was so weird. Like I think Symmetra had the most changes on her kit.
I think Symmetra has had probably one of the most, because I think from release Overwatch, what they had was they had the Bastion with that shield, if you remember. My God, I don't know if anyone remembers that freak of nature, the Bastion with a 1,500 HP shield. They had the Symmetra with the original teleporters and shield gens that came in at some point.
That was the ult.
Yeah. I remember.
And she had six
turrets,
those,
but they were all one
turrets,
shot. That's the thing. They were all 1 HP turrets. I remember when I came back to the game, when I came back after my year, when I saw sim turrets, I was like, these things are bulky as hell. They're not dying. Like, because you used to just be able to like breathe on one of them, they'd just explode because they always had 1 HP. But now sim turrets, I think they've got like 30 HP or something, like a small amount that lets them live.
Yeah.
But my God, it was terrifying because you'd punch it and it would just be like, "Hi, how you doing?" You shoot it once and it's still there.
How you doing?
Yeah, they stick around, that's for sure. But yeah, do you think that maybe changing those roles around, giving them different names maybe, or even, let's, God forbid Mei turns into a tank, but if they were to bring some heroes into a new kind of category, do you reckon that would change like the mentality of how people play them, or if it's going to be any kind of difference in terms of the overall play style? Or do you think people are still going to, sit with Ryan's shield and wait for the payload to push them to the objective and slowly budge forward and maybe press ult at the end of the game? Do you reckon that's what we're going to get, or are we going to see a bit more dynamic action from tanks maybe? A bit more brawly based.
Well, I'm hoping for more dynamic plays, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because, some games just can get a bit stale at some point.
Yeah, well, let's not talk about any Orisa Sigma type metas ever again. That's the one rejoice for me. We never have to see double shield bunker Orisa Sigma. There never has to be a Bastion sat behind a double shield Orisa Sig with a Brig shield in front of it as well. Can you imagine? Like triple shield.
Oh my, we did that a few times.
Yeah, well, I mean, curse you for that, honestly. But hopefully, we never have to think about that ever again. But in a way, I think the way I see it is I think with the direction that the game's going in, with them, basically saying Genji can now sprint at quadruple speed, please play Genji. Soldier's legs are now, like, insanely fast. He's actually a motor. He's quicker than the F1 car that's on one of the maps we'll talk about, to be honest. And with heroes, basically the game trying to be played at a faster pace from what they've shown. Hopefully the player base, especially new players that come in, I think this might be a conversation between, are old Overwatch players going to struggle more than new ones? Are players who pick up Overwatch 2 having never played Overwatch 1 going to be more adaptable and going to probably have a better time to begin with because there's no previous memories of a Rein Zarya dive or anything like that? What do we think about that? What do you reckon the difference is going to be between new and old players?
I think new players are going to have a better time because they're learning this. They're gonna learn this way and not the old way.
Yeah.
Because like for us, the existing players, like we know the mechanics and stuff, but we're gonna have to adapt to the 5v5. We're gonna have to learn how to play with that again.
And that's
but
just
new
crazy,
players,
isn't it?
they don't know the old ways. So
they don't know the
they just
the
go
old
into
times.
it. It's like, oh, it's always been like this.
Just don't tell them about goats. Never tell them about goats, and we can be okay.
We don't talk about goats. Never.
We will never have to talk about goats ever again, and this to me is a good thing.
The first 3-4 months will people just start experimenting and trying to relearn the game. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna try and come up with some crazy ass stuff.
Yeah, I've seen people who've been saying, why not bring it back to the old style of, God, open queue. Why do we need role queue now? If you're taking out a tank, then bring it back to being 5v5, but keep open queue. And I'm thinking, is it better for the game to have people playing in like a set foundation at the start to get used to it, to have 1 tank, 2 DPS, 2 supports, or is it better to see what we saw at the start of Overwatch Season 3, where everyone's playing 6 Winstons and they're all having a great what do we from it's a funny point to think about it, right? But everyone used to play
5 Torbjorns in 1 Reinhardt.
5 Torbs, maybe 6 Sims, 6 Winstons. This is what people played, and the game is more organized when it's role queue, but Is it the better opening experience for people? I don't know. Is it? It depends, right?
I just keep thinking about this one video I saw on Reddit a few weeks ago where there's just 5 monkeys jumping over the wall on Hollywood. And I never want to try that ever.
I think I've seen the video. Oh, one of my most pleasant memories. Sorry, yeah, go on, Trophy.
No, I think the roll queue, like, it actually saved this game, in my opinion.
Really? That's an incredible take. You think roll queue saved it?
Yeah, I think in my opinion it saved it because, not 4 DPS, 1 healer, 1 tank, or just everybody just picks DPS and, oh, we need a healer. You play healer. No, I think the roll queue, because, that actually, it just made the game better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think the reason why I think it's better is that the fact that you force at least 2 people to play healer in a comp where there used to be a lot of games in roll queue where you'd have 4 DPS and 2 tanks, and then you would just slowly lose because of the attrition and them having heals and we didn't. I think that kind of factor would be really important. And again, like with Overwatch has always been, maybe this will be different in 5v5 because it will be a lot quicker pace, but Overwatch has usually been quite organized, very teamwork dependent, so forcing people into those kind of like set roles to try and have a bit of a grid foundation at the start of every game. Maybe that will help boost the aspect of people learning how to play as a team from the off and not having to adapt to that mid game like we kind of did, I suppose, because of roll queue coming out and then open queue, roll queue coming in, sorry, and then open queue coming out is the order I meant to say it. But yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I'm a believer. Again, I think that hopefully with the 5v5 setting coming in, set roles, with the roles being hopefully quite defined, where you can kind of tell what each role is going to do 100%. The tank's going to be very physical, very engaging. DPS going to be quite spongy, but also, very high damage for like glass cannons running around. And then the supports are going to be exactly that. Hopefully pure built supports to keep tanks up, keep DPS up.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see. I would be really surprised to find out what the first kind of meta is going to be. I think the great thing about this kind of conversation is that we're talking about it from a pure opinion point of view. We have no clue what's going to happen, but I'd love to see what people come up with. And to be honest, what I'd love to see is that this is something that people have speculated as well. When they showed the announcement video from the Overwatch dev team, they showed that the people who were playing it were like members of the dev team, so ranks from like, gold up to like plat, maybe low diamond. The people playing them, they kind of suggested they might be. I'd love to see them give it to the gladiators or the shock for like a day and just say, you guys just have fun, do whatever you want, and then have them do like a little scrim at the end and see what pro teams come up with, what pro teams think is good. Because I think that will really give a big insight to like what kind of flexibility is on offer with the game and how many things could be viable. Because one thing that I want to see what you guys think about this as well, is that one thing I really like about the idea of 5v5 is that it seems to me that if they balance it properly, everything's going to be meta, at least within reason. There might be things that are better than other things, but I feel like where we've always had what Ryan Zarya, we've always had dive, classic dive, Winston Diva, and then double shield have kind of been like the main metas, and then when hero bans have come in, it's shifted a little bit. Maybe some tanks will switch for other tanks, but usually it's those kind of 3 core metas. There might be others that I'm forgetting as well, but those are the ones that I can mainly think of. Hog Zarya, the classic from the grand finals of last year of the Overwatch League, when they banned the main tanks pretty much, and Ryan was just awful. Anyway.
Good time.
Oh, yeah, I totally forgot about the hero bans.
Hero bans could be interesting. I don't think they'll come back to Overwatch 2. I'm hoping that they don't. I'm hoping they don't. But I can see a world where, depending on, obviously you might have to pick roles to meet with it, but hopefully every single tank will be viable to an extent. And then you can kind of play like the 4D chess, the ultimate game of rock, paper, scissors, trying to, match to their tanks with your tanks.
I mean, it could be with the tanks, like, oh, this tank is good for pushing that part, and then second part, you get that tank. Like, you could see it like that, like, maybe. I
mean, and this...
Like, you could use different tanks for different parts. What's better on that one? What's better on this?
And I think that would be a really interesting conversation, because we've already got a kind of situation where we do it a lot with DPS now anyway, because, if they're playing a hard double shield comp, then people lean a lot more towards like, Hanzo, Junkrat, pure shield break, get through those barriers, try and push through. OG's very happy in the chat. I can see #Junkrat meta. We're hoping that doesn't happen. For my sanity reasons alone, But this
Nerf
is usually how we deal with things, right? Is that we'll say, okay, the tanks are doing this, and this is a problem, so we'll use the DPS to break the tanks and give our tanks more space. Maybe with Overwatch 2, we might see something like, this tank is a really big problem, let's use this tank to beat that tank. Let's say there's a Reinhardt pushing massively, we might pick Hog and just destroy the shield. And then what does Rein do? Not too much, because usually a Hog would be quite good against Rein if Rein didn't have a D.Va with him or a Zarya with him. So maybe those kind of more simple one-to-one counters might be easier for tank, because usually, the off-tank might protect the main tank a bit more against that. But if those don't exist in this situation, then who knows? We might see games played where the tanks might switch 3 or 4 times over to constantly stay one above each other. Who knows? What do you guys think? Do you think that's something we might see, where we might see tanks constantly playing, 4D chess, trying to one up each other mid game?
Yeah, I think that's gonna happen. Like,
Yeah.
you're gonna play that, I'll play that against the counter here. Booty.
Good save. TG content, TG friendly content, boys. The booties will get counted. Nothing else.
Friendly.
Yeah. No, but I agree with you. I think we might see a world where, and this might actually be something we could talk about, is do we think that playing tank is going to be more skill based on like a specific hero, or more like flexibility based? Like, what do you think on paper would be the better tank? Like the best Rein in EU but doesn't play anything else, or the guy that can play every tank at a semi-decent level? Like, in terms of like team value,
the flexible one.
The flexible one, right?
One.
Yeah.
Because
to me, that's
when you
crazy.
play like some multiple heroes, you're gonna know the weakness of each one.
Exactly, and that's crazy to me, because in our game we get a lot of players, right, who, the whole one trick idea pretty much comes from Overwatch, where we see, people who only play Junkrat, Mason, and people who let's
Only
say let's throw him,
Mr. J.
Oh, Mr. J. There's people that they fit these ideas where, poor Jay, he does play with other heroes, bless him, but people who especially when you get to higher ranks, you get Smurf accounts which they're dedicated to one hero, and this is great, but then you get games where you might just lose, but then maybe the other tank covers them quite well. But in Overwatch 2, with a game where maybe, let's say if you've got a Winston one trick and you play against a Hog player one trick, then if that Winston doesn't, maybe a Reaper one trick, if that Winston doesn't flex around, then he doesn't have the same direct support that he would have with an off tank to keep him up. So maybe you're right. Maybe flexibility will be the big defining value piece. And if we go back to an Overwatch League environment, we're saying we think that a lot of teams might be dropping players soon. If you think of players like Super, who, although they are probably one of the best Reinhardts in the world, if not the best Reinhardt in the world based on stats, in an Overwatch 2 land situation where flexibility is key, is that something we can see continuing? Is that something that we can see? Is Super still going to have that same role, or are they going to drop Super for a middle of the park tank but just can play every tank? That would be a big question. Where's the team's loyalties going to lie when it comes to player flexibility?
I think they're gonna care mostly about winning. So if they need to drop Super to win this one game, then they're gonna have to replace him with an off tank, for example, like Choi.
Yeah.
Or someone else.
Because the way I see it is
what
like,
the match needs.
True. I get that. I do. The way I see it is like, I think teams would be crazy in Overwatch 2 environment if they had more than 3 tanks. If a team, let's say Fusion, okay, let's say they've got Mano, they've got Poco, famous Poco bombs, Poco D.Va. They've got, who else plays tank for Fusion? Oh, it's a really bad example to pick if I don't know the tanks for Fusion. But I know that they've got 4 tanks, right? But in an Overwatch 2 world, you don't need 4 tanks. You need maybe 2 or 3. Because if you've got a player who can guarantee play traditional main tanks, then that's great. But if you've also got a player who could play traditional off tanks, then realistically you don't need too much more outside of that, because they don't ever need to partner with each other. But in a world where, let's say you're the Shark and you've got Super and Smurf who both play main tank, but they play different main tanks, one of them might have to make the cut. One of them might have to see the drop and the other one stay. But that is just a really tough call for them to make, isn't it? Because which one of them gives you the most value? Because they both play different things in the same kind of role. So I think that'll be really difficult for teams to kind of make that judgment call of which players are they going to keep, which players are they going to look to trade out, maybe ship off to Korea somewhere and give them a boot camp training on how to play Winston. I don't know. We might have to. Yeah, look, Choi in the chat. I'm gonna lose my role in Overwatch 2. You will lose the role of off tank, but you might not lose the role of Zarya. It depends how strong she is. But I suppose this is all stuff that we'll have to we'll have to wait and see.
That depends on what they're gonna change, you know.
Yeah. There's so many things that, like, I cannot wait to see what they decide to do with heroes like Orisa or Bastion, who they've said are going to get big changes, because we know that we have some Bastion fans out there. Our big boy Toontown from the NA side, for example. But
Can we get a shout out to Toontown?
Can we get a shout out to Toontown? But these heroes in their current states, you know, like we said about Sombra as well, like, I really hope we see some kind of Sombra change to either make her less powerful directly or make tanks better against her. Who knows? But I think that there's some heroes that could be super like scuffed if they don't get the changes that they need.
Yeah, I would like to see a lot more DPS tank duos that work well. Like, instead of the good old Sombra EMP bomb and the Grab Dragons, I want to see, like, you know, depending on the abilities, more combos. You know what I'm saying?
All right, so you think maybe in a world where the off tank doesn't exist, the relationship, maybe the synergy between the tank and the DPS line might become the most important thing. Yeah, no, that's actually really interesting. I didn't even thought about that. So you're right. Like, things like,
that's what I would like to see.
Grav Blade, Grav Dragon, those kind of like comms based.
They've gotten old.
Yeah, they've gotten old. But I think in a world where, you know, you've got a Zarya play as your main tank, and Grav is obviously an incredibly powerful ultimate, bigger than, you know, better than yeah, obviously you know more than we do probably, but better than Shatter when it comes to direct value, because it lasts longer and it's just more powerful anyway. But ults like these could become the new, you know, combos that you would see with off tanks and main tanks, where maybe Shatter Bomb or Flux into whatever, you know, these ults that would usually be used to set up things might become like the finishing ults themselves with the new changes. Yeah. Okay, well, I think that's
give a whole new meaning to playing tank.
It would, and I think that they need to. I think they need to be really careful that they define that properly, because I think if people come into it, especially, you know, we said about new players probably having an easier time, because it's like a clean slate for them almost, right? I think hopefully if they balance it properly, then players coming in will get the same kind of experience as old players, where it's a new game for everyone. I think they need to be careful not to let old players think that it's almost the same game, not have people try and play Zarya as an off-tank when off-tank doesn't exist. You know, I think hopefully they'll do bits and pieces. Do we reckon that things maybe like the Brawl name for tank, if they go for that kind of thing, might be able to do that? Or do you reckon there's going to be other ways that they'll try and distinguish between the new roles and the old roles? What do we think?
You go first.
I think they're gonna try and distinguish them.
So, yeah. What I'm hoping that they release a new tank on launch. I hope that there's. I mean, you know, considering it's a brand new game, I'm hoping we see at least one of every role on launch come out. I know it's very easy to put DPS in the game, and they always say how hard it is to put supports in, because supports, Brig, often change the meta a little bit when they put them in. They don't exactly want goats too, I think, is a big scare in the Overwatch department. But you know, I would love to see a new tank come in that like perfectly encompasses this Brawl kind of style. And I really don't care if they make him super broken. Junkrat is not going to be the new tank. We're not having Junkrat tank.
No.
Thank you. But imagine a world where they bring a new tank in like this. Let's say this tank has got like, let's say it's like Doomfist, right? But it's like he's not Doomfist. He's just a big boy with two big fists, and he just punches everything and runs around punching things. Let's imagine that's the tank. Imagine Doomfist with soldier legs is what I'm thinking, right? And it just runs around and punches everything. This really brawly tank that makes space. If that's kind of like the playstyle they want to go with, then like I would love to see a kind of like defining mold that they can advertise to people and be like, that this is kind of what you're supposed to be doing. This is a really good example with it, but you can do it with other tanks like Ryan. You can do it with Winston now because of the jumps. That would be I would love to see something like that. Like they give like a massive step forward with like a proper way of showing it as an example with the gameplay too, of like, this is what this is supposed to look like. Maybe do like a little crash course 101, how to play tank in Overwatch 2, you know, that kind of thing.
It's gonna be different.
It is gonna be different.
But do you think with Overwatch 2 that they're gonna, you know, when it first releases, they're gonna stick with these characters, of course. But do you think they're gonna add more than just one character?
I don't know. I think it depends on the roles. I think obviously we know that Sojourn, whatever she may be, we think a DPS, right, is coming. And we've seen a tiny bit of gameplay with her railgun physics. We've seen that looks really cool. And obviously, we know that the dev team have had an absolute field day when it comes to like sound design. If you've seen the announcement, that you've seen the game looks and sounds beautiful in its current state, with the gunfire changing when it's the gun is something different when you're inside and outside. If you're on like Route 66, that you can hear the echo going along the canyon of the bullets being fired. It's beautiful what they've done. So I can't imagine a world where they've not done that with a couple of new ideas as well. I definitely think that there's going to be a couple new little guns that they've tried out, maybe to just stick onto a hero and say, look, this is what we've come up with. I think we'll see that. I think we're most likely to see more DPS, as always. I'm hoping we see one, maybe 2 tanks. If we could see 2 tanks, 1 support, and 2 DPS on launch, I would be probably over the moon with that, because we know that there's going to be more coming down the line, right? But if we could have those kind of like initial launches, that would be fantastic, because that's like the growth that I think that we all want to see.
I want a tank that is gonna shake up the meta as much as Sigma did when he first came out.
Oh my!
When I read the patch notes myself, I was just like, no, there's no way this is gonna work.
There's no way there is literally a flying Dutchman.
Yeah. There's no one that's gonna play Sigma. Now look at me.
Sigma's pretty fun.
Sigma that I have on DPS.
I mean, as a Dutch person myself, I play a little bit of Sigma.
Let's just don't go anywhere near the experimental Sigma. As long as it's not the flying Sigma with no shield, then I'm okay with it. No flying Dutchman.
When Sigma first came out, I like played him like 30 hours straight in the new rule queue, because he came out with the rule queue.
Yeah, he was on that kind of release, wasn't he?
And I was only playing him, and like people like, stop playing Sigma. I was like, I'm learning him.
He used to be so strong with his 1,500 shield and everything. And I think we saw a very similar thing with Echo. Is that there's always a phase, right? I remember this like very early Overwatch as well. I remember when Sombra came out, and everyone and their nan bought a Sombra gold gun within the first 3 minutes of her being released, because it was like the new thing to do. And everyone was playing Sombra in quick play. I remember you'd have to queue in quick play over and over and over again to try and get a game where someone hadn't picked Sombra yet, so you could try it out and snipe it and do it for yourself. But God, it used to be, so exciting when new heroes would come out. So if there was a new release of the game where, I think if the game released with, let's say, 2 tanks, 2 DPS, and maybe 1 support, because of how balancing tends to go with Overwatch, I think that for the first couple of weeks, people would only be playing those new heroes, right? Because of how exciting they'd be. Hopefully. And then again, it's been
over a year since
it has been quite a while. Yeah. God, it's been over a year, hasn't it, since Echo? That's crazy. It feels like yesterday when they brought Echo out. With the beam being like half the length of the map, like able to laser people down. So glad they reduced that one. But I think,
thank God.
I think, like we were saying, if we hope that they kind of like advertise it as this new game, so that new and old players both kind of lean into that, then if they give a bunch of new heroes to play with, say, look, play with these guys are fun, play with these heroes, we've just made these, and those are kind of like the heroes that are going to like properly encapsulate the vision of the game, play how they want them to play, then that could almost be like the best way of teaching the new play style, and then people will lean towards older heroes. Like Reinhardt will obviously come back in at some point, I think, and Winston and Zarya. But maybe if there is a new tank, let's say that let's call Jim Bob the new tank that comes in, and he's busted out of his mind. He looks fantastic. Everyone loves Jim Bob. He's the best thing since Sigma, and everyone's playing him. And they're like, God, this is so much fun. Jim Bob is cracked. Why would you ever play Ryan? And then they nerf him, because they're going to nerf everything after like a week. I guarantee it. They'll nerf everything. But maybe Jim Bob is the way that we teach new tank gameplay, that we get the kind of model example that the team's going to create, and then let people play around with that, and then slowly make it a bit less powerful so that people lean towards other things. But maybe Jim Bob is the way forward. Who knows? Maybe Jim Bob is the solution that we need. I hope that they release more.
Let's go,
heroes.
Jim Bob.
Let's go, Jim Bob. Jim Bob diff.
It's funny you picked that name.
Yeah.
One of my friends used to call me Jim Bob.
Did he?
I'm just thinking, why would you put me in a game?
That's you. You are the off tank. You are the main tank.
I'm Jim Bob.
The tank player himself is encapsulated Overwatch 2 already. Yeah, but there's obviously a lot that we could go on this for hours. But I do want us to try and shift over towards some of the new content that we've seen. We'll get away from like how the game's going to run, and we'll actually see what the game's going to run in the new maps, for example. So we're going to talk about new maps. And the first one that I want to talk about, which I believe, I could be very wrong, I believe it's the first one that they showed, but I want to talk about Rio de Janeiro, because I feel like that's been very controversial. They showed it originally in the BlizzCon event, when they showed like the PvE mission on Rio. Do you remember when they showed like you running through the streets with Lucio just screaming at you as Tracer was running around zipping some Omnics down? But from the map that they've shown that it is a hybrid map. I hope that's right. I think it's a hybrid map. Yeah, it's a hybrid map. So they've shown that the point A capture is like this pretty open courtyard, which looks pretty nice, almost like feels a bit like that kind of Eichenwald's kind of Hollywood almost type courtyard. You know, you've run through a little tiny choke and then it's just a main open area. That looks really cool. I love that. But then the street phase on Rio that they showed almost looks like a COD map almost in the way it's designed. Have you seen it? The way it's like completely, you know, you could go 55 different routes, zip in between the little favelas with all of the winding streets.
Right
yeah, it looks like Widow Heaven. You know, to some people because of the, and that just looks to me like if that's the kind of direction that these new maps are going to go, then I'm really excited. Yeah, it looks brilliant. What do you think, Trevor? What do you think of Rio based on first looks?
Looks good.
Sorry, I caught you snacking.
Yeah, I'm eating a burger.
That's okay.
But,
you can always chime in if you need to, but we're happy. So yes,
I'm always excited for new maps. I'm just sad they haven't released a new map in quite a while.
Yeah, well, they released Kanazaka, which we'll pretend is...
Like I said, they haven't released a new map in a while.
We'll pretend that Kanazaka exists enough.
It was a bit overhyped.
They could also just make some changes to Paris since that's out of the equation. Like since season 20, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think that with, and we'll get to this when we talk about push, but with the move away from 2CP, we remember actually this might have been a hint that we missed because they said a long time ago that they were giving up on changing Paris and Horizon because it wasn't beneficial to their like work schedule at the time. So maybe even back then they knew that listen, we're going to kind of get rid of CCP, but 2CP we might move towards push, and we just didn't know push existed yet. But maybe that's what they were referring to back at that time. That would be really interesting to know. But yeah, so this Rio map, I think it looks beautiful. I think it looks great. I love the color schemes and everything. I love just the way that the game looks. I know it's the same engine, but it looks so more tuned than what we've seen before. And
I absolutely love Brazil. And when I heard that they're getting a Rio de Janeiro map, I was like, don't even show me. I'm all in. I already love it.
He's got all of the Rio stonks already bought. He's investing hugely into it.
I'm still waiting for a Dutch map.
For a Dutch map, where do you reckon they'd go? Because they've announced that they're going to do Gothenburg, haven't they? Yeah, they could do an Amsterdam type map. Maybe
so
have
they
something
did Sweden
like
before Netherlands.
They have done Sweden. That is a Scandinavian diff right there. I think they've massively lent towards.
I'll take it.
Yeah, but I mean,
I think every character, or at least
Yeah.
some characters
every character should only
map.
like get a map.
Yeah, because there's some maps that like we can say like Dorado, right, which is just like that is just the Sombra map because it's like her story, her everything's involved with that.
Sombra / Soldier, because you saw
Yeah.
Soldier.
Because he's in the hero one as well.
Yeah.
And then maybe you could argue
the
and even Gibraltar to an extent. Even obviously Ryan's got his own big Germany, Germany. But you've got also what is it called? Gibraltar is like the kind of Winston map from that early trailer. Maybe Winston Reaper because we saw Reaper attack Winston in that little HQ area on Gibraltar. In that I think that was the first animatic that they did, one of the first ones. The recall one.
You have the freaking moon.
You do have the moon. Hopefully, and I'm happy about this. We never have to go to the moon again. This is fantastic. We can all cancel our flights. Okay, Elon Musk can rest his case a bit. We're not going to the moon quite just yet.
I mean, I would rather play Lunar than Paris, though. But
would you? That's a hot take. Would you prefer Lunar Colony than Paris?
I mean, Paris is just. They're both bad.
For the sake of the TG stream, we will not comment too heavily into Paris, but we will reserve our thoughts perhaps for another day. But no, I think that the new maps look beautiful. I think that especially one that, and we'll talk about this more quickly when we move on to push in a couple minutes or so, is that I think that they've shown Rome now. They've also shown Vancouver, and I love the thing that I love about these maps so much is that they've shown the kind of like symmetrical element to them. Vancouver's like this almost like S shape from both sides where it has to like go around these little slopes as if you're playing like alpine skiing going through the map on that kind of shape. Yeah, it looks great, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just love the design of some of the different high grounds that they put in there, and as well like the little flanks and just how the robots interact. I do think this is great. And we've seen with Rome is almost like a little spiral shape with lots of like interlocking high grounds where there's a choke that they were mentioning with the dev team that is very, very tight and close brawly kind of choke, which almost does look like a kind of 2CP-esque choke where you don't know how you're going to get through there, but they've shown all of these different like angles of attack and flank angles, and I really think that one of the main benefits from the new maps is that Aaron Keller, the head developer of the Overwatch team, he's the guy who invented King's Row, which has been famously one of the better maps throughout the game in terms of like able ways to attack it and defend it. You know, people love King's Row. I have my issues with it because of Junkrat, but that's okay. As a Reinhardt player, I love it. As anything else, I tend to dislike it. But I think it's hard to deny that King's Row is just a beautiful map. It's a really great map, and the fact that
everyone has fun on King's Row.
Everyone kind of has a good time. You know, it's not like Numbani, where sometimes people love it or hate it. I think everyone has an okay time on Kings, and I think the fact that, you know, our now head developer of the game is the guy his brain was behind that. I think we're already starting to see maybe a couple little drops of stardust from that same kind of era in these new maps. I really love the design.
Yeah, I genuinely feel like the Overwatch is in good hands. Yeah,
I think people were very worried about passing over the reins from, you know, we all love Daddy Jeff. Daddy Jeff will be forever in our hearts, right? But I think the fact now that we are able to currently, you know, move into a new era with a new face, I think that's also a good thing for the advertisement. You know, there's not going to be any confusion between 1 and 2 because it's a new poster boy on the front cover of every newspaper article. Now it's going to be Aaron Keller instead of Jeff Kaplan. So times are changing, my friends. Times are swinging along. Of course, Mason loves King's Row and Anubis.
As well.
I hope he does. I hope he will. He did the first one, didn't he?
Aaron Keller here.
Yeah, he needs to lead into the role of it.
Overwatch, yeah.
See, I think Jeff was fantastic, and I've seen a lot of people talk about this. I think the fact that Jeff to be like a head developer and have that kind of public presence at the same time, I don't think anyone could really do it like Jeff could. I think he was just, you know, built different. He was really, he was the perfect man for that role. Like, could you imagine people trying to replicate that kind of professional standard, but also having such like a touch with the public like he did? You know, always able to get people on side no matter what. You know, they brought Brig in and he still managed to smile through it. You know, things like
it's a once in a lifetime thing.
Yeah, I think it really is, and I think that Aaron would do. I think that he would do fantastic to even get halfway to that standard. I just hope that people don't hold him to the "you're not as good as Jeff, you're a fraudulent Jeff Kaplan." I hope that they give him the time of day to try and reach that level at some point. I think maybe he could get there, maybe not, but hopefully at least he'll be a good impression of Jeff. And I think he's doing a great job already, considering the pressure that he'd be under to give a great opening speech. I think that I loved the way that they did the announcement. I loved that they did a live stream with proper like Overwatch League style broadcasting and commentary, and it looks beautiful what they did. And I think that direction moving forward, hopefully, I mean, I hope you guys might have different opinions, but I think that kind of more public direction, instead of just like a pre-recorded dev update video, this is what we're doing. Maybe getting the viewers more involved, people's opinions on Twitter might help. Maybe not when we're voting for skins, because Mercy just wins by a landslide, but getting more people involved for, you know, update ideas, map ideas, showing them on the streams and gauging the viewer feedback in those scrolling chats. This could hopefully be something that we see in the future for a long time to come. And I'm really excited for it. I really am.
I'm all for it.
Same.
Are you excited for it too, Trophy?
I'm so excited.
I was gonna say we can all shed a tear at some point for Daddy Jeff.
Maybe Aaron will say, "Hey, we're gonna nerf Junkrat." And I'm like, "Yes."
Oh, I hope he will. That's my vote secured. You know, if he does that, if he nerfs Junkrat, then we can happily say that he has done Jeff justice and he's earned his way up to the role.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think the new maps do look excellent. And talking of new content, we are going to have a relatively large segment, and we're going to talk about the new game mode Push. We're going to talk about Push Boys, this brand new creation, this fever dream that one of the dev team members had when it came to a new map idea. Well, let's push it in. Let's do that exactly. Let's get the robot man, who I think is called TWO, I think his name is. I can't remember exactly.
Yes, OG. Nerf Junk.
I think that's what his name is.
OG has been in the chat like, oh.
I've seen him every now and again.
Junk needs jet boots. No.
I mean, Junkrat's always a place of controversy. Hang on, wait, oh my god, the spelling diff.
Breaks slash. It's just give me a hard time. You saw how I played on Icon Vault with my stream.
Your stream was beautiful earlier, like actually insane.
I'm so happy with my new overlay.
So, obviously we know that we are getting rid of 2CP, which sparks rejoiceful screams, cries of excitement throughout the lands. We can all be confident in this. But is Push the game mode that we think is going to be a great replacement for that? How are we feeling about Push? We've seen some gameplay of it. We've seen some maps of it. Personally, I'm really excited for Push. I think Push looks amazing.
I thought Push was more like the escort kind of thing.
What, it looks like an escort map to you?
Yeah, it looks like escort, just named differently.
Well, I suppose in terms of that, there is an objective that's getting moved when you move with it. I think that's always kind of like the escort kind of mentality. But then again, it's got that, and this is what I love so much as being a new kind of lease of life into the game. Is we've never had this kind of like tug of war game mode before. We've always had it maybe on not 2CP, on Control, where we've had this kind of like the point flipping back, back and forth. But to have a tangible rope that's moving, back and forward with these bots running around to try and push these little points, I think that push could be really, really fun as like a brand new way to play the game.
Answer on her question on the stream. What is push?
What is push? Oh my goodness! So for people who haven't seen, push is this beautiful game mode where the map is basically symmetrical, and there's a robot that will basically push these two slabs, one for each team. There's a red one and a blue one, and the robot will basically work like a point that's being contested. Where if you've got the robot in your kind of like team's area, like he starts in the middle, yeah. Because you win the original fight, and then basically it works like a payload, doesn't it? So as long as there's no one touching it from the other team, he'll move with you. But then if you lose the team fight, then he'll move with the other team. And what he'll do is he'll slowly move these points towards objectives where there'll be like little checkpoints, and then they'll stop there. But he'll constantly move back and forward like as the game plays, and the game looks like it could either be really, really fast paced, which could be fun as well.
It's like Control meets Escort?
Yeah, it is like that. It's exactly like that. Control meets Escort.
Like you win the team fight, you take the robot with you and push your own.
Get a little bit of extra progress on your side, and then hopefully win the next team fight and keep going. The only thing that I think about when I see push is that it looks like a game where if you win 3 team fights, the game could just be over, right? Like the game just ends with the overtime banks coming in. So I'd love to see how they balance the snowball factor, because I think that's something that, especially when we talk about the difference between push and 2CP, is that one of the things that people used to hate about 2CP is that it feels like a lot of the time that you, well, apart from everything, it feels like it's very easy to get pure snowballed, right? That you have like 1 minute time bank, they have 17 minutes of time bank because they captured the point within 2 seconds with a sim TP or something,
Remember where you got 4 minutes instead of 3? Yeah,
I remember do you remember the times when there used to be a day and age where not only would the points not have tickers on them, so you would need to cap the whole point for it to keep the progression. But also, if both teams capped with 6 minutes overtime, you would keep 6 minutes overtime each team, and it would never like scale it down. So you would have games that would be, I think the most famous thing that I've seen of it was I saw an Anubis game back in 2016. I think XQC was streaming it, and he had a game that was about 48 minutes long because it was constant cap forever, and like they slowly like over each round would lose about 30 seconds of the overall time bank. But like for a 6 minute round that just goes on forever, right? If you constantly cap. So I would like to see what they do with push with overtime as like a concept, but I'm hoping it's not quite as snowbally as it might look to be, because it does look sometimes with what they've shown where, there's difficult choke points that might take a bit of time off the clock, but if you win 2 or 3 big team fights on push, you might just win the game. Like, it might just be over.
I don't know how to feel about it.
Why don't you know how to feel about it? I was gonna say, Alex is scaring me a bit. He's thinking way too much about 2CP. It's getting to his head. Is he okay?
2CP!
He's having like, induced nightmares. Go on, Arctic. What are your thoughts? What do you think about push?
Push, it's very interesting. I never would have thought of anything like it. So like, they're very innovative. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. I can see that the mix between payload and control. So it kind of feels like the old Overwatch as well, at the same time with like a new twist on it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it'll be interesting to see how the fights will be won, and if there will be like some kind of flank points where like a Sombra could just like, take the robot and push on her side, while other people are fighting on the point on the other side. Yeah,
you mentioned earlier that like the whole back cap potential of maybe just losing the whole game because there's a Sombra somewhere and the team fight's happening somewhere else and the robot's just vibing with Sombra. Maybe, I think it depends how the robot works in terms of like, can it be easily swayed by just one person, or does it need like a group of people like next to it to keep it moving? Yeah, that would be interesting for me, because that would make it a very much like a kind of like King of the Hill, but the hill's moving, right? Like you've got to stay on that point to keep it yours, but the point is always moving around. Whereas on Control, it's a bit different, where the point is always in one place. Maybe you can play around it a bit, but maybe push might work in a way where maybe 3 members need to be on the point constantly to keep the robot moving. Maybe give him some like emotional speeches to get him going. But it needs 3 people to do it. It's not enough for just Brig to inspire him. They need a couple more. Maybe
you can do it.
Even Omnix needs some love.
Yeah, I was gonna say the guy, he's having a hard time. He needs 3 voices to get him going. This is something that we could see. We could see something like this, which I think then would massively reduce the risk of like a snowball, because you would always need to have kind of like that overtime almost feeling when in overtime when you've got 6 people constantly on the point and then a diva bomb just kills everything. It might be that kind of idea where one ultimate could completely swing the fight because everyone's so clumped up. But maybe that's the kind of place where maybe you put your Reinhardt on the point with like 2 supports and have the DPS hard flanking somewhere to try and make some space, try and stop the instant retake. I think there's an awful lot they could do with it. But I think that sorry, go on, Artie.
Oh no, I was just making a quick comment.
Oh yeah, that's fine. So no, I was just going to say, as like the 2CP almost killer that it's trying to be, we're trying to basically do the Indiana Jones, like swap the gold figure for a little bag of sand, quickly just move one over the other and hope no one notices that 2CP's gone, which I don't think too many people are going to like. Maybe they might notice it's gone, but they might not care. But is it something that we think on its own is going to be completely enough to fill in that void that we've missed? Because to be honest, Overwatch has kind of felt like, you queue into comp, okay, and you queue into 2CP, and what's your initial reaction when you queue 2CP? It's always great. You always like buckle up a bit, you lean forward, you're like, okay, right, let's get through the trauma. Okay, but it's so in a way it's always kind of felt like the game, I suppose maybe not always, maybe early days it felt a bit better, but at least in more recent years, I suppose it's fair to say, it's always felt like the game has simply been a 3 map type game, because people always enjoy most of the time playing hybrid, escort, control, and then they see 2CP and they always cringe a bit and go, they don't want to see it there. But is push finally going to be the game mode where I look forward to playing comp because I know that I can't queue into Anubis straight away and ruin my day from the start? I can queue into any map realistically, and I'm always going to have preferences. I'm always going to prefer King's Road to Numbani, but is this going to get people playing the game again? Because there isn't going to be the risk of, God, I've queued into Hanama, Volskaya, and Anubis in 3 games in a row. This is really the most unfortunate luck that you've ever had. What do you guys think of that? Do you think that people might be a bit more inspired to actually play the game just because 2CP's out with push being in?
I for one will.
You will,
because I've had some of my worst games and worst seasons on Horizon Lunar Colony, and I don't want to live that ever again.
Well, fortunately, you wouldn't have to live that anyway because they did axe it from the whole list. But
Still, but the 2CP is still there.
Yeah, we can't quite escape the night.
I can't really say I'm looking forward to playing comp because I'm always like, I hope it's not 2CP. Like, I pray to God every single game, just don't give me CP.
You're always gonna get a 2CP map if you're gonna play a night. Like,
always.
You're gonna get 1 or 2.
And it is always like the bogey map, isn't it? It's always a map where people go, God, this is like the mental gatekeeper. Can we get through? Can we beat the 2CP curse once and for all and finally push on? And if that isn't there anymore, and this is a question of, does it even need to be push that needs to be the game mode to do that? Or could any game mode really come in and kind of get rid of 2CP for people to be happy? But I think that if push lives up to the kind of excitement factor that it seems to offer with being quite spontaneous, quite a lot of things that could happen randomly very quickly, instead of like the mental, uphill climb that is attacking on 2CP, maybe we could live in a world where the player base gets more engaged because they don't have to have the fears of queuing into Egypt or
2CP.
France in quick play.
Or Japan.
Yeah. Oh my God, let's not talk about Shimada Castle. It does scare me. I suppose something that
it's the worst.
We could also bring into the conversation, and this is obviously going to be the moment when I completely forget what I was going to say. Oh my goodness.
Oh, no.
Wait, there's actually no way.
Oh boy.
Oh my God, what a blunder. This is so tragic. Stall for me, boys. Stall for me. Say something
Arctic
nice.
use confusion.
Use unconfusion. Use unconfusion. Get me a full heal. I need a person berry. Oh my. What was I going to say?
Inspire him, Arctic.
I cannot believe I've forgotten. Oh, that is actually tragic.
Trophy used Inspire.
Oh no, that's what I was going to say. That's what I'm going to say. No, I've remembered. We're not going to leave it that late. I would cry if I remembered tomorrow. The next day. What I've remembered is I was going to say, like, we especially in TG, we have it a lot where we're going to queue some quick play with some mates, and we're going to chill out for a bit. And every single time we queue into Paris or Horizon, we leave. And there's some games. It's just that is a rule that I feel partly responsible for creating, and I'm very proud of myself for doing so.
It's an unwritten rule.
It is an unwritten rule, but any French maps, including Le Moon, are illegal, and that's completely okay. But maybe we're going to be in a world where you're going to queue into a quick play game, and you're going to have the same full lobby 9 times out of 10 for the whole lobby, and you're not going to get people randomly coming in and leaving because of the map. You're going to get a player full map. I'm sure there's a couple of 2CP believers out there who they might love Paris and Horizon, and if they do, then that's their fault. But for those people, their life is probably a misery, because when they queue into a quick play game, most times out of 10, probably half their team leaves, and maybe the game cancels because everyone just leaves at the start of 2CP games. Yeah. But we might live in a world where you can queue into arcade, maybe quick play, maybe comp, and because of the map pools in rotation, hopefully being things that people like, there might be scuffed maps, maybe Royal Map Release might be a bit more choky than they'd imagine. But hopefully you're going to get games where people aren't just going to leave or throw because it's on a map that they don't like. Maybe we might get to a stage where
get very competitive in a quick play.
Yeah,
sexist.
We won't go into too much detail on that one. But people's attitudes, people might just be happier playing the game if the game modes are more what they're leaning towards. And I think that 2CP is a real, it is a mental boomer for me. It is something that really, it can put you from being the happiest that you've been all day to the lowest low possible. And that to me is I cannot believe that an Overwatch map type has the power to do that to people, but it really does. It really honestly does.
Asked, what about map voting?
What about map voting? Oh, you see, this is something that... I
love that idea.
Something what Call of Duty used to,
I've always been a fan of this, right? And the thing that I had in my mind is that you get games like League of Legends, where before the map starts, you can vote for what heroes you want to ban on their team, and what maps you want to vote for on COD. There's things like that. I've always been a fan of the idea of, instead of hero bans, have pre-match hero voting. And that would not only further hard nerf one-trick players and give that, kind of desire to pick up a flexible range, which, as we've already discussed, might be the way for people to go next year, if that's how the game's going to be played. But also it might mean that we see more varied games. And if there is a really hard meta that people don't like, for example, let's say that a version of Double Shield, obviously it's impossible, right? But let's say that something slow and boring like Double
Brig,
Shield.
Hello.
Yeah, let's say that Brig gets 800 shield all of a sudden and they make Double Shield a thing.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, let's just say that happens. But then hero bans, in terms of pre-match hero bans, let's say that someone on the other team, you go, oh god, it's Kaz. Okay, Christ, what are we going to do? Quickly, ban the Widowmaker. And you use your ban to nerf one of their players, and then maybe they might ban Reinhardt if it's you or me trophy, or they see Arting and they go, we can't ban every off tank, but we'll get rid of Zarya, and then we'll see what happens. This might be something that could happen, but also
I hope not with the hero bans, because
really, are you an anti-hero banner?
I'm an anti-hero banner. Yeah.
I think maybe
I had the same with Rainbow Six Siege.
Oh, I love that game.
Oh, how does it work in Siege? Enlighten me, for someone who doesn't play Siege.
Before a game starts, you can pick 2 heroes you can ban for their team. But they can do the same for your team.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So
but now, recently,
hero and
recently they brought in map bans as well. So you get a choice of 3 maps, and you can ban 2, I think, and then you'll play on the last one.
Right, okay. It's kind of a last man standing kind of situation,
Yeah.
Vote for the... I think that... Well, maybe they might do something like you would... when you load into an Overwatch map, and you load in, and it's just it just says, Hollywood, and then it shows your team and their team. Maybe you just see your team, their team, and it says, hybrid, and then it gives you a list of maps, and you could do the kind of the endorsement system, when you vote and you say good teammate, it might just say vote yes, vote no for one of the maps in that kind of scrolly bar kind of fashion. That's what I think of it when I think of it, something like that. And I suppose the question is that what we want the game to be? Because go on, Trophy.
I would love to see a map vote, you're going into quick play, you want to play against the same team, or before the game even starts, you're you're in a lobby, pick that map, 5 seconds later you're in it.
But I suppose so I suppose even if that were to be a thing, right, that would instantly make it so that you would never be in a game where people would majoritarianly leave because they hate the map, right, because it just wouldn't get picked. I think there's for me it's I like the idea so long as the game doesn't become very much you play the same map every game because everyone votes for the same map.
Yeah.
Like on COD, if Nuketown ever came into the rotation, you'd always get Nuketown, right? Always, like for the dawn of time, it would always be there. But
no, they should always just do random maps like it's say escort. Pick between Eichenwald and wait.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like maybe give them like a choice of 3, right? Like 6 does it, and then you know
but
have
always
that
do
be a
different
random
maps than
like a random choice of 3.
There's always going to be like the best map and the worst map, and like that least popular map is never going to get played on. Just like how it is on Siege when hero bans, there's always this one character that's always banned.
See, that's the thing that I worry about a little bit. Is I think that especially if the game's so new and the people are trying to test out new characters on new maps, I think the dev team, because they've always kind of been a bit like this, where they've always been very scared to like ban thing. I know they brought in hero bans because the Overwatch League was doing it, but they took that out very quickly because they realised kind of that people just aren't happy doing it. And I'm worried that although there might be maps that, I suppose it goes both ways, doesn't it? Because the worry that I had was if they had a map where everyone as a community decided we don't like Hollywood. Let's say we don't like Hollywood, so every time Hybrid comes up, Hollywood never gets voted for. Like just as like a thing, it just never happens really.
Yeah.
Then in my head it's like, well, that's a shame because they put a lot of effort into Hollywood and it's almost like going to waste because it's content that isn't being used. But then again, at the same time, that might be telling the dev team, okay, we need to make Hollywood fun. Why isn't Hollywood fun? Get some community feedback, maybe try and rework the map a bit. Maybe not like Paris and Horizon style, because I don't think Hollywood would ever be that bad because of just the natural structure of the game mode. But I think stuff like, you know, popularity being the indicator for what maps might need to change, or maybe giving maps buffs, you know, in a very inverted comma kind of sense, could be something really positive that we could see with map changes and map voting.
Yeah, that small change with the lift where it just triggers now and
like that's a really good point, right? Yeah, like I could. That's on Volscar as well, which again, not too upset that we're never going to see again, but at least they use it in different places too. But little changes like that, you know, let's say that there's like a 2-month period and they've got all the statistics because they'll have like the server data and everything. They'll say, okay, so in these 2 months, Hollywood got played 10% of the time when it was on offer. Okay, they'll be like, okay, Christ, that's not great. Why is that happening? Maybe if we could do some quality of life changes here, make this mega a bit closer, or add another mini over here, you know, little things like that. Maybe not change the whole map.
They changed Lunar as well, didn't they?
Did they change it, or did they want to change it?
They changed some things on Lunar, but you know.
See, I don't think I was there when it came out originally. I think I was there when it was in. I was there when it was in the game, so I remember I played on it. But I don't think I was there when its initial release, so I can't remember what they would have changed. But
they changed some walk-ups and stuff.
Oh, that's a shame. Poor guys. They said that they were going to change it, and then they realised, okay, we need to change it again. Like it's still not playable.
They changed it one time. That's like it. But
I suppose this is a really good point that we could talk about. Is
that they can change maps if they want to.
Is when we talk about
Rainbow Six did it.
Yeah, true. They did it with Rainbow Six. Maybe then we could have a quick chat, very briefly, about when they talk about new maps. How much of a change do we think we're going to see to old Overwatch maps going into 5v5?
I would actually. I mean, Overwatch 2 is a little later in time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would like to see an example of like what Gears of War did.
Oh right.
So basically, there was like I was an Xbox player back in the day.
Huge.
But there were a couple of maps in there. They put in Gears of War 2, Gears of War 3, and then it just made it older. So they grew stuff on it like trees and stuff like that.
Oh right, really showed the decay over time, yeah.
Yeah, like the decay. Like, you know, since Overwatch's been fighting so many times in let's say Hanamura, just make it old and decrepit, or you know.
I mean, it's so old and decrepit. It's been thrown in the trash can.
Just an example.
Yeah.
You know?
Because I remember the dev team when they got asked the question about, because obviously it was a big question, right? It's like, how are we going to go from 6v6 shaped maps to 5v5 shaped maps? Because obviously some maps, like let's say Junkertown, are going to feel massive without an extra player there, because they already are quite vast. So to have all of that extra space that isn't being covered by, say, like a Ball, Winston, or Diva from like a second point of view, maybe that could really feel quite dense. And I think what they said that they were going to try and do is especially I think Junkertown was the map that they were asked about. But I think that the main thing that they said for that was they were going to look to really try and put in a lot more natural cover spaces, a lot more like debris maybe or fallen cars on Junkertown. You know, they've got like the old rotted cars in like that end of first point attack. Try and have a lot more of those like scattered around, almost like a maze kind of feel. That to me could be something they could do, but I think that there's a lot more that would need to change for me apart from just like, you know, more cover everywhere. I think that you would also need just to like change maybe how some different streets would work. Maybe different flank options might need to be extended or shortened even in some cases. Do we think that this is going to be maybe like a Paris or Horizon phase when they just realize that there's so much we need to do that maybe there's a world where they try and like just cut some of the maps, you know, which could be. I think that would be awful if they could do that.
Cut Temple of Anubis.
Yeah, they're cutting those anyway. This is fine. We know this is happening. But what about maps that people like? What if they say to themselves one day, for example, God, you know, King's Row, it was great in 6v6, but it just isn't quite working for us in 5v5. What are we going to do? Like, what are their options there?
I mean, I wouldn't see a reason with King's Row that they should have changed it because it's still the same.
I mean,
even with 5v5.
Didn't they
Yeah,
announce
I think that's a really awful
expanding King's Row?
They're expanding it. Is that what they said?
I think there's
I haven't
like a
seen
whole
that.
new different way that they're gonna go instead of like going point, like I think second point, they're just gonna go to the left a little bit and open up a room. I
Oh
think.
wow.
Ilios is amazing.
Ilios is an interesting map.
Ilios.
The problem that I have with like modern day control maps is that it always feels to me, apart from like Busan is my favorite because Busan, and I know this is very controversial. People hate it when I say Busan's my favorite, but I love Busan
I like it.
because every point on Busan feels like it favors a different meta. Like Mecha Base is like, oh, you play Ryan Zarya in here, you have a great time. Downtown is like, oh, you can play like Winston Zarya, maybe Ball Zarya, and then Sanctuary is always a bit more brawly, maybe like Sigma Hog, maybe Hog Diva, Hog Zarya. You get like a kind of different feel on each point. I feel like hit scan downtown. Hit scans are fantastic. Mecha Base, they're awful. You just don't play hit scan on Mecha Base, especially not long range like Ash or Widow because there's nowhere to shoot. But
OG says Henamore and Anubis is fine.
Yeah, I bet he says that.
No, OG, no.
In like the Overwatch 1 cut content, this is going to be like all the 2CP maps. There's going to be like any extra content they think, and this is going to be like OG, just like on the top of that little layer of like the trash can getting ready to be thrown out. Hopefully, if you.
No, don't do it.
Maybe that'd be a bit.
Can
hard.
I just point out?
Yeah.
Numbani. When did Doomfist came out? Like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Why won't they clean up the spawn point?
Oh my! Do you remember what I got really upset about? Is that, do you remember old Numbani? His gauntlet used to be what you were transporting to the museum.
Yeah.
It used to be the whole point of the map was that you were transporting his fist to get it there so that it would be protected by the people. Now you are literally transporting an empty car to the museum.
Yeah.
There's nothing in there. There's nothing to transport. I don't understand. It's like.
But I can't stand why they haven't cleaned that spawn point.
Poor
up.
Arissa. Every time you play Arissa on Attack Numbani, she has to like see her fallen comrades for like the 100th time. Like, poor Arissa.
So
always getting treated wrong.
How lazy are those people? Just clean it up.
Yeah, it's like imagine you're playing Doomfist on Numbani. Like he's just holding the gauntlet that's meant to be in the car. They're like, wait, there's this. He's escorting the car to the museum while he's wearing the gauntlet. I don't know. I think it's very interesting. Fallen comrade, exactly, Miali. But yeah, so I think maps like King's Row would be fine. And there's been talk, but I think that there will be similar to like a quick play classic. You know, I think there's going to be a 6v6 mode somewhere in the arcade that you'd be able to play for old time's sake.
They probably will.
Probably. So I think that for those variants, they might keep the old maps just how they are exactly now, but they might make some changes to certain bits. Arctic, you sound apprehensive about that. What's up?
I mean, a good idea would be to take those 2CP maps that they're scrapping and just like rework them into like other types of maps. You know, for example, Anubis, just rework it and make it into a control map, for example.
Really? But do you think they'd be able to like with the
they would have to extend it then?
They would have to like
I think it's a good idea.
I think
take maps for like Hanamura, for example, make it into a payload map. Deliver Hanzo's bow or something,
or even a control map, different sections.
I think what they could do is they could keep them as like hybrid maps and keep that keep their first points as being almost the same. and then have like, let's say, I don't know, on Hanamura you're just rolling the bell along, and maybe that's what you're escorting, or on Volskaya there's like something that comes out of the ground maybe after you cap first point, but maybe have like the initial point A as being like the first point of a hybrid map, and then having a payload that you move along maybe towards somewhere on the second point. That could be. I think it would be an awful lot of work for them, and I think that in terms of like, would they rather commit to push and just fully working on push or other, because they've said also that they've got like other game modes in the works as well, which could be really cool.
They can take their time with it. I mean, they'll just be wasting all the effort they put into the maps in the first place.
Yeah, I suppose. And it's like they
work into something better.
I suppose, do they have like, are they mentally boomed now by 2CP like we are? Do they have the mental strength to reapproach it for the 5th time? Do we reckon they can persevere and try and make something out of it? I don't know. I hope
they would
that
have
they
my
don't
respect
completely.
if they do.
Yeah. I think that if they could, I mean, they said that the Overwatch 2 dev team's much bigger than what the Overwatch 1 was at the time when they made it. So maybe they could commit, 5 or 10 people to trying to salvage something out of it. Maybe even, I wouldn't be massively upset if they turn them into like deathmatch places, like have like Anubis be built for a deathmatch or something. It would be a bit of a waste of potential, but at least it wouldn't be fully just scrapped. And I would be okay with that, I think.
Yeah, I just don't want all that effort going to waste.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that would be a shame. Hopefully they can work something with it. I think, like you said, like a payload map for Hanamura or maybe a hybrid map for something like that could be really, really cool. I think they could work something really productive with that. Okay.
Well, if they have the time.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, hopefully they'll have the time. Okay, so we have pretty much exhausted the Overwatch 2 kind of events. We've spoken about the maps, we've spoken about the tanks, DPS. I haven't touched too much on support. Is there anything you want to talk about supports for Overwatch 2? What do we think that kind of feel like in the new game?
They're gonna
I feel like
they're
Trophy's
gonna
the
buff
expert
them.
here.
What's that, sorry, boys?
Expert? Am I?
Is Trophy the expert?
I feel like Trophy's the expert here. I haven't played support in
He's
ages.
the support main.
Kinda.
Go on then, Trophy. What's your expert's opinion?
Well, support pog.
I didn't have a title for this. You can tell, right?
They gotta make it more.
Yeah.
They gotta make it more durable. Like I heard that or saw with Anna, does 120 damage or something.
Does she?
Or heals even.
Oh Christ! I didn't see that. Maybe that is a stat. I might not have seen that.
Something I heard from your Overwatch, like it was something with 120 damage or even heals, so she gotta heal more, or
huge.
Mercy does more healing.
What I am a big fan of. They
gotta make changes if they're gonna do 5v5.
What I'm a big fan of is like just a concept in general. Is I do like the idea of just giving like pre-existing abilities like a second charge. Like having Anna have, let's say she's got like dual wielding sleep darts that she fires off too, maybe like in a free. Wow. Can you imagine something like that? Maybe I would love to see Baptiste changes where they change the. We were talking about like earlier the April Fool's experimental. I actually really like the Baptiste change that they suggested with trying to make it more like just a damage reduction field. Maybe like not have a HP bar for the drone and have it just like almost be like a window where you would just take less damage. Almost like everyone had like a Orisa Fortify for like 5 seconds. That kind of thing I'd love to see.
Breather.
I would love to see a change on Zen.
What would you like to see?
Make him just let him heal more instead of just one ball. He has 6 balls around it, or 8, 9.
He does, but only for special
occasions.
Balls
around his neck.
Only for. Yeah, but those are
balls around his neck. He just uses one for healing.
Wait, am I being mega Papega? Are the Zen orbs that he shoots with the same as the orbs in Harmony Discord? Are they the same things, or are they separate? They're the same thing. Oh my goodness! So yeah, he could have 20 orbs of Harmony flying around.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
No, but just make it 2. Give it 2. And when people are not inside,
Oh my god! Could you imagine like double Discord on the main tank? They would just melt.
Oh wow.
Oh my, maybe not that.
No, Discord is fine. Discord is just fine.
Does it add up?
You can only have one healing orb per.
Okay,
per
maybe have a choice then between Zen having 2 orbs at the same time. He can either have 2 healing orbs or 1 Discord, 1 heal. Maybe do something like that. Maybe try and give him that kind of like dual charge thing that Zarya has.
I mean, his damage output is fine. That's good.
Yeah, he's pretty cracked. He does a lot.
He is. Yeah. I call him Machine Gun Zen.
Got a room for a support man on it? Meowly, by all means. If Meowly wants to come in and give us 6 cents, we'll happily get.
By all means.
By all means. Welcome to the late arrival. The experimental pick. Meowly has arrived. The wild card. Always welcome.
But yeah, would love to see some changes with Zen buff Brig again.
I think the dev team are going to be very careful around Brigitte, because I think that even
Yeah,
though goats
Brig is
shouldn't be possible, I think that they would still be scared of doing anything to her, because every time they buff her, things go wrong. It's like they're
maybe nerf.
yeah.
Maybe
Hello?
Hello,
nerf
Meowly.
Mara a
Welcome
little
to
more.
the fun
Hi.
club where we're trying, as all Reinhardt players and off-tank players, trying to figure out how support works. could you enlighten us with
I
your
know how
sixth
support
sense?
works.
Yeah, well, you play
And
Brig.
you are a fantastic support at that.
He is.
I feel like it's going to be an easier job.
Really?
Because you have one, it's a 50-50 because you have one less person to worry about. But I completely agree about the durability because at the end of the day, everything else is getting buffed, like the damage, the tanks are going to be more brawly, which makes the healers very susceptible.
Yeah.
Because for the most part, we are just squish. So... Are we squishy? We're squishy over here.
Very squishy boys indeed. Yeah.
So it's the case of it's going to be an easier job because we have less members to worry about. But then we have the new worry of how brawly and more damage taking we can be.
Yeah.
Because we're just sat there like, oh no, I'm just going to get destroyed, even though.
You see, it's like when I think about it, I have like two thoughts in my mind. I have the thought of, yeah, okay, we don't have to worry about one more person, but the person that we do have to worry about, we have to worry about like doubly as much because they're just like turbo feeding on cooldown. Like that's their job now. It's just to be two tanks in one, that kind of environment.
Yeah.
And to me,
you
that's
have less protection in that sense.
True, and also they made a big clip out of it on the official announcement. They said, they were showing off the passives. They showed Reinhardt not getting booped as much, or I think it was Roadhog not getting booped as much by a Lucio, and where Widow went much further. But they also showed, they showed a Reaper specifically chasing a Mercy and catching up to her and killing her. And it's like, well, okay, this is great. The supports have got their new passive that gives them basically Mercy passive, but a bit reduced. So Anna will slowly get health back. Let's say Zen with his shield regen would get a bit more quickly. Maybe Mercy with her actual passive would be a lot quicker as well. But like, if there's a Reaper chasing you and he's always going to catch up to you, how much is that passive really going to help you out? Because it's always going to be like the shields are, like Mercy's passive is at the moment, where it's going to need to wait for a second before it can kick in again. So if Reaper's constantly tickling you, getting closer and closer, the passive's never going to kick in. So is that, are supports just going to get farmed? Is this what we're looking at? Or do we think that they might have a bit more survivability, maybe abilities come in to help them out a bit? Because I think the passive on its own might not be enough, is my thought.
I mean, it's going to be something that it's going to take actually having the game finally be released and see how it plays in a general perspective, not just by people that have obviously created it so they know how it all works, but we as the players will give an outside perspective. We'll think of random things that the devs may not have thought of, and then you're like, actually that's too strong, or that's not strong enough. So it's something that will have to be a work in progress, and we'll have to see to believe and see to find out. Because it's all just what ifs at the moment.
Yeah, and that's in a way,
and
that's the beautiful thing, isn't it?
And we can hope and pray that we won't, like, us support mains will not just be grounded into oblivion.
Won't be left into
just
the rubble.
Charge.
Not quite yet.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, with tanks giving less ult charge, it might be more of an incentive for a Tracer to come hunt down a Zen or a Mercy instead of a Roadhog, That, to me, is the scary part. But again, like you said pretty well, support mains everywhere. Hold your horses on Twitter. We don't have to all send hate comments to Aaron Keller quite yet. We're in a driver's seat position where we don't know quite what's going to happen, so everything is just pure, speculation, trying to wait and see what's going to come to pass. But I think that they are going to be very aware that supports are going to be frail. So because of that, I think they're going to... I can see a lot more... I can see, for example, like maybe Mercy's GA cooldown. We said this earlier about Ball. I think that there might be a really cool world where Ball's grapple just doesn't have a cooldown, and he's just constantly zipping around. Maybe Mercy's GA doesn't have a cooldown, constantly zipping around, trying to dodge traces, and I think that could be something that's really cool. Maybe Lucio's speed does a bit more of a speed now anyway because of the DPS being quicker. Maybe his speed is just more powerful. Maybe maybe a lot of things. Maybe Anna can self-nano to keep herself. There might be a world where we see her shoot herself in the neck with an LSD, and she just vibes. We might see it.
Honestly, my other half's a Overwatch player as well, and he just had this bizarre thought of a nano but it's like it releases like a death blossom, so it just sleeps everywhere.
Oh, maybe she's got like maybe like she's got like a sleep, like a tear gas grenade that like puts like a sleep grenade. Who knows? I don't know.
Oh my god, that would be insane.
That would be quite crazy.
Like night, goodbye.
She just whips out the chloroform. Let's not quite advertise it as that, but maybe something similar.
Gas.
Yeah, we were saying that she's got like maybe these dual-wield, sleep darts. Maybe she's got a grenade that does it. I was thinking like as a concept, I was thinking of a lot more kind of like zoning AoE things that could be used instead of CC. Like one of the thoughts that I had is maybe instead of McCree having a flashbang, maybe give McCree like a radius-based smoke grenade, like you'd see in games like Valorant, where like he'd be able to quickly just put up a bit of smoke around him and kind of like move through a space without getting seen, or because if they want to build McCree to be that kind of mid-range flanker, then give him a tool that's going to help him get around a bit, apart from just combat roll. Let him kind of sneak in a backline. They might see a big cloud of smoke and realize something's going to happen, but maybe if he gets there slightly undetected.
But then if there was going to be like a smoke grenade kind of thing, you would need something like Warden from Rainbow Six Siege to counter that, like that can see through smoke, or Glaz's sort of.
I was going to say, you need to tell me what he does because I haven't played Siege.
He has glasses that can detect, that can kind of remove. It doesn't remove the smoke, like you're still there, but you can see a bit better. Glaz's red scope can like pick up the heat signature in this specific area, so you can see people through smoke. Maybe
Widow's sights actually becomes an ability that's useful to the rest of the team, and not just Widow. Who knows? There could be a world where that happens.
Hashtag nerf Glaz.
This isn't the podcast for that. We're on an Overwatch-based podcast. We'll save the Siege ranting for another day. But no, I get it.
That's what I mean. Like they'd have to build a counter for it.
Yeah, I would love to see a lot more. If I could build a perfect environment for what I think would be my opinion of the best thing to do, I think if they took out CC abilities and replaced them with like utility abilities, like say that you could use, let's say that, I don't know, let's give Brig an ability for some reason where we get rid of Shield Bash and we give her like this ping ability. She can whip out, like, let's say she whips out like a telescope, right? She just sees someone in the distance and it pings them on the map, marks them for everyone every 6 seconds. Who knows? Maybe something like that. Maybe
some tagging.
The tagging would be really, really cool. And they've actually said in the announcement, they said that they're going to try and bring in some kind of tagging system. They've always worked around with it, they said, but they said that for Overwatch 2, they do want to have some kind of ability to ping a certain area and say maybe move over here as a team, because obviously group up or go or incoming, it helps, but it's not quite as directional based as we'd like it to be.
It'd be better on the basis of communication, because obviously it is a team-based game, but then not everyone is confident enough to like speak.
Exactly, this is exactly what people are saying. That's a perfect way of putting it. Yeah.
Because not all of us are as linguistic as you.
I'm very fortunate to be able to talk to French top 500 players. I promise you, it's a treat.
Yeah. So it's a case of that sort of thing would be better to communicate to someone who can't communicate to us.
No, I completely agree with you. Especially like random teammates maybe who just aren't in team chat. It could just be that. Because you get people who are more, and I think I saw Stylosa made a point about this from Unit Lost on his stream. He said that he's always very communicating in team chat, but he gets that some people just don't want to put the mic on because they're just more comfortable. Maybe they're listening to music or just playing the game as a game and not trying to fully hard sweat the quick play match that they're in. It could be anything, but just having a bit of more utility, because especially with Overwatch moving to a 5v5 game, like a lot of the main FPSs nowadays, most of these games have a ping system, and Overwatch would be like a big standout to not have one. So maybe in pro 5v5 lobbies, which is weird to say now instead of 6v6, but in pro 5v5 lobbies, they'd all be in perma group chat, team chat, talking to each other anyway. But on a more casual playing basis, why not? As a quality of life change, just have that in there. I think that could be really cool. And maybe give supports an ability where they could see what cooldowns the team has got active on the other team. Maybe have that kind of ability. That could be crazy good. Imagine something like Brig could see exactly when Hog Hook was going to come back online, or I don't know, anything like maybe Anna with her buffed scope or something in the new game can see abilities with her HUD, or I don't know. I think there's so much that they could play around.
Yeah, because that would be good for like how to work as a group, and because a lot of us are ult tracking, so like we'll check it from like a death cam and stuff like that, and we'll say like, oh, this person is this close to ult, so it'd be easier instead of like dying to find out, because we preferably don't want to die.
Yeah, preferably.
That is something I don't know.
And again, this is also things that this has come over time, even for Overwatch 1, because if you remember, like, come the start of the game, you couldn't even see your own teammates' ult charge. You could only see yours. Because when you'd go on the tab, it would never show you their percent. That was a later change anyway. So if they're going to try and move into this more commsy, brawly-based environment, then hopefully that'll, be something that they'll look towards.
I mean, I'm as someone who only started playing it just before the first anniversary. So I remember like the multi-res and stuff like that, but not seeing your team's ult charge was something I never witnessed.
It was very early on. It was very early on.
Yeah.
But
So that's news to me. I never knew that was
no, because I was watching. Do any of you know who Custer is?
I've heard the name.
He works. He was an ex-pro player. He played for the LA Valiant on the first season of the Overwatch League. But he's now like one of the desk analysts for the. He does like the presentations. He's like one of the main casters of it. And he has his own Twitch stream where he does a load of VOD reviews. And he did like one the other day, as like a bit of a meme, was like from an Apex tournament in 2016. Like one of the first ever tournaments that Overwatch had, and it was like 3 Winstons, 2 soldiers, and a Zen was the comp that they played.
Oh my god!
And
you could pick the character as many times as you wanted. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that they then slowly after that started to lock it to like 2 per role anyway. But even so, you would see like just anything. And he said that like in that time, it was so weird playing Zen as a support because ult tracking just didn't exist. He said that you could see ults being thrown out everywhere because no one had a clue what was going on with ultimates because you couldn't see your teammates and obviously you couldn't see theirs because the player cams were so scuffed and they didn't show them properly. And it just shows the way the game's changed. Like you also showed a bit of King's. It wasn't King's Row. It was Gibraltar, where Gibraltar first point. When you go under that little dip of the bridge before you come back up the top.
Yes.
Yeah, when you attack on that first point and it goes like under the little underpass and then comes back up again and then it turns left towards that
on
main
the left
little
side.
Yeah.
Attack and spawn. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There used to be a checkpoint underneath that little underpass
What?
because no one would ever hold there because people thought that it was more optimal just to hold right at the last point. So to try and like incite people to hold closer, they put a checkpoint there so that if they didn't, then they'd get like an extra 2 minutes. And it was crazy how it used to work. The game, it was so much more different in 2016. It really was. It's come such a long way. But it's just crazy to see how things have changed. But yeah, hopefully we'll see a future where not only tank and DPS will benefit from passes, but also supports. Hopefully new abilities will come in. And hopefully that will... obviously we're in a great phase where we can have this conversation a million times over and we can have a different one every time. But Overwatch 2, we'll wait to see more detail soon, and we will catch up with hopefully the podcast when we get more detail on that and we could really give more direct feedback. But for now, it's just our lovely thoughts and wishes, and we'll keep it to that. But we're going to move on to the last little segment as we have a little bit of time. We've got 15 minutes. Just to finish off, we're going to take a look at Overwatch 1, our game, our livelihoods, and we're going to have a quick look at the new experimental card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring us out of the custom game. We're going to go into patch notes, and we're going to start from the very top. We're going to talk about Baptiste. They're nerfing his exo boots. They're giving the charge time increased from 0.7 to 1. If you go just on the main menu where it's like play training, go all the way to the bottom to patch notes.
Yeah, I'm there.
Oh, okay.
There we are. Yeah, and we've got the new ones. So it's Baptiste, Echo, McCree, and Moira are the changes. So we have the support main on board, which is fantastic because we have 2 supports on this change list. So Baptiste, exo boots going from 0.7 to 0.1. Do we think this is a nerf at all, or is it just pointless? I have a feeling where I think that this might be, like, it looks like a number that's changing, but will you feel it? I'm not sure.
It's a small nerf. You'll notice it a little, but I don't think it's going to be a much impact.
To look at, it doesn't look like much because it's only 0.3 of a second change. But in the midst of a fight, that 0.3 seconds will make all the difference. Like, especially if you're brawling it out, you're using it to get up onto the high ground to heal your team, or just getting out of it so you can sort of go backwards a little bit or forwards a little bit. It would make all the difference.
To me,
but I mean, I'm not the Baptiste. I'm not a Baptiste main. I've only just started really getting into him.
That's okay.
And yeah, like as I said, 0.3 of a second just doesn't look like much on paper.
to me, it almost
one
feels
that you
like
have to throw yourself into to find.
yeah,
and
it
see.
almost feels like the 25 HP buffs that they've been giving recently. Like, although 25 HP on paper might not seem like a massive change, maybe 1 in 10 fights where you would have died, you might live on 1. And maybe with this Baptiste change, maybe 1 in 10 fights where you would have escaped, you might get caught because of the extra second, or you might not be able to quickly reach that high ground in time, and you get hooked. Maybe, I don't know, something like that. What do we think that might be the reason why they're doing it? Because the reason they've given is they said, though it felt better to use, the previous reduction of Exo Boot's charge time resulted in Baptiste becoming more evasive against some heroes. Since he already has strong defense abilities options in Regenerative Burst and Immo, we're reverting how quickly he can change. So this is just actually a change back to how it used to be. It used to be 1 second, but I think that with Immo and Regen being so strong as they are, that the Exo Boots almost like don't really feel like an ability at this point, more just like just how he plays. So maybe it won't feel too damning to him, where he'll still be able to be top level, viable, and not suffer too much. I think he should be okay. That's my take. I think he should be okay. What do we think? Let's have like a 4-way vote. Meowly, do you think it's an okay or an okay? Is he getting buffed or nerfed mentally?
For me, I'm 50-50. It's a case of if it's going back to basic and on how it is, it's a case of he should be fine.
Yeah.
It's a lot of Baptiste mains may have used that in the past, so it will be just sort of
just feel a bit slower maybe for them.
Yeah.
How about you, Arctic? What's your take?
I've been feeling like Baptiste has been one of the most played supports in the past few months, and he's very, very good. The immortality field is absolutely it's disgusting.
I'm so glad they've changed it. Like the change that they made to the Immo field.
It's frustrating.
It is very rude.
Yeah.
It is very rude. We're about to get a 6k and everyone's just like blue all of a sudden. It's like great. We love to see it.
I have to suddenly change my focus onto this lamp in the
sky. Little frisbee that someone's yeeted on point. Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like this is a good change.
I think so.
I can see. In one way, it's gonna change the meta. It's gonna shift, and like other heroes are gonna come into the meta, and yeah, I generally feel like this is a good change.
Okay, so but you still think that he'll be playable afterwards, or
he will be? Yes, of course.
Okay.
It's just this one change is gonna make him a lot more killable.
So currently we have a 3-way vote in favor of playable over just terrible. So Trophy, are you gonna swing the other way, or do you also think that Baptiste is going to stay playable?
My god, Baptiste is totally unplayable right now.
Oh, they just ripped his legs off, yeah? No.
Why would they do this?
I think we're all confidently in agreement that Baptiste will probably be okay after an extra 3 seconds.
He'll be okay. This is like not much of a change here.
I think, like I said, there might be...
Like said, he's... some people will have... he's more killable now.
Yeah. There might be a time when he dies instead of living.
like a frog.
Won't be quite as salmoning in the air as he was before, yeah. He might live.
Yeah.
Okay. Well then, we will pass over to...
You'll kill him a second faster now.
True. We'll pass over to Echo then.
Sorry, 0.3 seconds.
0.3 seconds faster. True. The time really does count in quick fights.
Yeah.
Okay, so Echo, she's getting her duplicate nerfed. Now takes more ult percent charge to give more spam needed to get the ult.
Yeah.
What do you think, Trophy? Go on. Leaping to the gun on that one.
I'm gonna leap on this. I think it's a good nerf because her damage output is quite frankly insane.
Absurd. Yeah.
It is absurd. She's difficult to play with. So I do respect players who play her.
I appreciate it.
I was gonna say we take that. That's a dub.
Like I can play her a little bit. I could probably play her on like gold level, low
Huge.
gold.
We take those. Let's go.
That's about it. But
yeah.
I think
us gold players are valid.
Yeah, of course.
We count too. We count too.
All lives matter.
No, but I think the older cost. I think it's good. I think some players you just get your ult way too fast with her. And with this, it'll rain it down just a little.
So you think that we won't? I think that because it's not really a difference in like playability. I still think she'll work the same. We'll say, is it a deserved nerf or an undeserved nerf? Is how we'll judge it.
It's a deserved. It's a deserved nerf.
I think it's deserved. I actually, if I wanted to play like hard devil's advocate, right? I would say that I think it's cruel in metas where like her poke doesn't do too much. Like maybe if it's a double shield meta, then her ult would take forever to get because with Sigma and Orisa blocking stickies and maybe the beam not getting too much value through 2 shields, maybe she might struggle. But then I suppose the argument at that point is that for me it's why would you play Echo in that situation if you're playing into that kind of comp? But I think in comps like the current dive that we're seeing a lot of like Reaper Echo in Overwatch League because of the bans, and also just Hog being played a lot in general in most ranks of the game. I think Echo having that free battery just running around was giving her a bit too much of a Duracell 99% faster boost, so maybe she needs a bit of a knock on the charge from my point of view. I think she'll still be playable, but I think it's deserved.
Yeah.
How about you, Miali? What's your take?
I completely agree. As a former Echo main.
Echo main.
I still play it from time to time.
When was the time period that you played Echo? When was that before the beam nerf?
Only a couple of months back.
Oh, okay. I was going to say when you were pre-patch Echo.
Back.
Okay.
And it was to the point that I could get duplicate in maybe like a minute, maybe a minute and a half.
Yeah.
Like I think would be the best I'd done, and it was just insane because the cooldowns are so short, and the damage they do.
Yeah, like sticky bombs on like a 4-second cooldown. Like, what's that about? Like, that's insane.
Exactly.
People just explode.
It was just she was broken to begin with, and they're like, "Oh, Echo's here to balance the game." Is she though?
Yeah, we balance the game by bringing in a new best hero. It's like okay.
And so to make the game changing sort of thing that an Echo duplicate can be, I mean, you can see some like fantastic like fluxes, the amount of shatters you can do.
Oh my, she is quite
the
amusing to play.
EMPs and everything like that. It's you're earning more for the payoff, not just barely like doing a couple of sticky bombs, stuff like that, and then having this massive payoff when you're actually earning it now.
Yeah,
you're actually putting in the work to do it.
When I saw this change, I was worried that it meant like the ultimate cost, like when she was in the duplicate. Like if you say you got Sigma, even with Echo's ult, Sigma's ult, you still need to hit things for it to get sometimes.
Yeah,
because of how long Flux takes to activate as well. Like you need to give yourself like 8 seconds to properly use it, and it's all a bit scuffed. But I was worried that might basically make Sigma as like a dupe target just not great because you might not. But if it's just like her getting the ultimate and then the ultimate within the ultimate stays the same, if that makes sense, then I think it's fine.
Yeah.
I think it's a deserved nerf in that sense, but then it doesn't put her too far in the ground. Go on then, Arctic. What's your legendary take? Are you going to go with the crowd or against the crowd on this one?
As an Echo main myself, I hate to admit it, but it's deserved. I agree with everything Miaoli said.
Another landslide victory for the dev team on this one. We all think that they're going in the right direction.
I saw it coming.
We did it.
Ever since she came out, I was like, okay, she's going to get nerfed at one point.
Yeah, she might have to see a change.
Yeah, when I'm playing Echo, I can just feel like when I'm gliding through the air and just like aiming at the same time, I'm getting some angles that I shouldn't be getting on any other DPS. Like I just have this whole new like world of possibilities in front of me.
It's crazy because she does to me at least feel a lot more stable in the air than Farah does. Like Farah moves around very quickly, but only in like one direction at a time. Echo kind of just like vibes, floating in a certain like periphery and just lives. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you stop moving, then you're literally just stood still in the air. You are just having a good time, just checking out the different angles. Like, there's a free spot. I'll sticky bomb in there. It's fine. It's Gucci.
Of course.
Like,
fine.
Easy stickies.
Fine.
Okay, well, moving over to one of the bigger changes, Big McCree nerf. Reload time increased and the combat roll reduced. I see this as a way of trying to assert him into that role of like a mid-range kind of flanker, not so that he can just teleport halfway across the map with a combat roll and flash something. So hopefully have them a bit more, positioning based, maybe try and not punish a tracer quite as hard if they get too close, or maybe try and punish him more for not being close enough to a tracer so that he can't get in that kind of like roll range to then flash her. I don't know. I think that this is a strong nerf. But for me, it's a question of, is it the nerf that he should have got, or was simply taking the 25 HP back a better nerf? That's my question. What do you guys think about that? Do you think this is the nerf that he deserved, or do you think 25 HP coming back off, bringing him back down to 200 like the rest, would that have been enough for this guy?
See, the thing with the reload is a case of that's fine. But the combat roll looks like it's still fully reloading his gun.
Mm.
So either which way, that if you have your roll on cooldown, you've still got that like the point 3 that's being put onto it is null and void in that sense.
In that, yeah. And I suppose also for High Noon, right? If you cancelled the High Noon, you'd still get the reload as well. So that could also be a new tech, maybe. If reload is really slow, then use High Noon more defensively to run away and also get some ammo. Who knows? But yeah.
It's the distance, definitely, because then it's better for the brawl types. Because it's not a case of he can easily sort of escape and then use that massive distance he's created to go, and then you're like, where's he gone? Next thing you know, he's behind you. It makes it easier to take him on, because I've heard it a lot recently that McCree is just not balanced. It's great to play him. It's horrible to play against him.
He's been a pretty safe pick for a long time, I think, with these changes as well. So maybe this is the nerf that he needed then. But I suppose that's going to be the question that I'm going to ask you guys as we go through. I'm going to start off and say that I believe that this is the right nerf. But for me, it's a question of, is it the right or the wrong nerf? Is this what he should have been nerfed for? I think that this is what he should have been nerfed for. I think that his damage output now is a bit lower because of the reload time, and that he still has the options to reload with combat roll and stuff, so that's okay. But I think that now that he can't TP across half a choke because of combat roll, and he can maybe be a bit more that kind of like mid-range slow flanker kind of playstyle that they're trying to like build him into being, that to me seems like the right nerf. But Miali, do you think this is the right or the wrong nerf for McCree?
I think it's the right nerf, but I also think they should have just taken the health away too.
Oh, that'd be a huge nerf, though, wouldn't it? Would that not be a ginormous nerf?
I feel with that involved, that would be a hard nerf. Like,
that would
this
be like
is just, I feel, a soft nerf.
Yeah, I think.
But it is needed to try and balance.
True. Okay.
Because McCree's drive me insane. As a support main, they drive me insane.
So we're going to go with that it's a right nerf, but you could see more in future as a potential nerf as well.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Mr. Arctic, what is your opinion?
I would like to see the Fan the Hammer being nerfed, because it's been such a problem this season.
Also, for you, this isn't the right nerf at all. This is a completely wrong nerf.
No.
You'd much rather see the Fan the Hammer.
Yeah, I'd much rather see Fan the Hammer, because the reload time is it was already slow. Like when I'm playing McCree, it's already slow. What was a problem for everyone in Overwatch was Fan the Hammer this season.
Flash Fan has been quite inspirational. Yeah.
The amount of times like I've seen just fan the hammers constantly, like fan the hammer, reload, fan the hammer.
I've been guilty of it myself this season. I have abused it quite a bit.
I've done it. I'm not ashamed to say I'll stun fan the hammer, but when it's constantly all you do, you're not actually using Peacekeeper to its full potential.
It is just a machine gun.
Fanning it.
It is just a soldier rifle on a 6-second cooldown. It's what it is.
It's not correct in any way, shape, or form.
One combo that I saw was Fan the Hammer, roll, and then Fan the Hammer again, Deadeye, and then Fan the Hammer again.
Yeah, like just the Rhine Destroyer, just like puts a Reinhardt in the dust.
That sounds horrendous.
Okay then. Well, Mr. Chef,
my God.
What is your take on the McCree?
Yeah, I do think it's a good nerf to him. So it's the nerf he needs, but he needs more nerf, like what Miali says with the health.
Sure.
But just take it back to 200, I think with the reload time, it does lower his damage a little bit, what he can output in a couple of seconds. But, Fan the Hammer, bane of the existence of
tank players everywhere.
Of tank players and support players. It's just annoying AF.
That's okay. No, we appreciate that.
I like it. Keep it PG.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Much love.
PG kind of guy.
Just had like a sweat roll down. It's fine. It's all good.
Eyebrows.
Yeah.
But
so you think it's the right nerf, but maybe in the future more nerfs to come with as well, kind of like the Meowly take.
Yeah, like maybe he's shooting what's it called? Drawing a blank here.
What are you looking for? Sorry, you lost me then.
The firing rate of his gun.
Oh yeah. I mean that. Yeah. Maybe.
Just a
because they buffed that a while ago, didn't they? I remember they buffed that at one point, so it was a bit quicker.
I should just say just a tad slower.
A little bit slower. Maybe so that Ashe feels like a better, maybe long-range mid-range pick than McCree even is.
Yeah. And
okay.
The combat role I like because like he doesn't fly away again. Anymore.
Hopefully he doesn't. Yeah, just TP across a point anymore.
But
okay.
Yeah, maybe just also a nerf to his flashbang or something.
Maybe. I mean, hopefully they might lead him towards that kind of like almost like Overwatch 2 style that he might have to play at some point. Maybe by reducing his speed, movement, and stuff like that, so that the passive will come in and take over.
And people are saying fan the hammer, but he's fan the hammering with L2.
Fan the R2.
No, that's fan the hammering. I call it flash the hammer.
Flash the hammer. Oh god.
Yeah. That's
flash fan is a
yeah. Flash the hammer. You can't do anything about it, but with the reload time maybe. But if you do a flash the hammer with the combat roll, it's like you're gonna have a bad time.
Your light's gonna flash before your eyes.
Yeah, flash fan before your eyes, and then that's just it. And then in some cases you get it again on the replay viewer as well. So that's just you get to see it twice.
I just think maybe just flash. They should not work on everyone, but that's me.
Maybe with the tank passives they might be more resistant to the CC. Who knows? They might just even get rid of it. I'm hoping they get rid of it. Is my take for Overwatch 2. I hope that they rework it into something maybe like a smoke grenade or maybe like just a trip mine. I don't know what he could do. Anything that could be fun. Cowboy shenanigans.
Yeah.
Maybe a lasso. This is the world we're living in. He has a hog hook on a nerfed hog hook. I don't know, something like that maybe. We'll wait and see. But okay, we'll move on to Moira. This is a relatively big one. So, Biotic Grasp resource generation are 3 times higher while channeling Coalescence. Like,
I didn't understand that.
So basically, it means if you're empty on heals, like that bar is low, use Coalescence and it charges up 3 times faster.
So when you come out of Coalescence, your bar will basically be full, right? Is that what they're saying?
Yeah.
Wow.
I tested it out. It would be like almost half full.
That's crazy. So that's almost like almost like that Echo kind of get out of jail free card when she used to dupe and have 200 HP back anyway because of how it works. So now it's like you quickly coalesce, get all of the grasp back anyway, as if like instead of actually doing normal damage, you just use the coal, do some healing at the same time. But then I suppose to balance that out, they've given Coalescence an increased ultimate cost.
Yeah, I don't get the 17. Why not 15?
I think it's a bit of an arbitrary number that they're given. Yeah.
It is a bizarre number.
They're like 18 is ludicrous, 16 is not enough of
I don't
enough.
like odd numbers. I don't like odd numbers. It has to be 50,
the OCD struggles a little bit.
0.
Yeah, the OCD doesn't like it too much. But it's okay.
From a healing standpoint, that's fantastic.
Support main? Yeah.
It's fantastic.
You really like
it? Especially with like tanks that can take a lot of damage, and it's all brawling out. You normally will lose the healing quite easily.
Yeah.
So, and yet it will feed into the ult. So, to bring that balance in, the fact that it's a case of yes, this is increased, but then this is sort of, we're gonna have to make you kind of work a little bit for it. But then if you're doing your job, instead of just DPSing, because I have a strong disdain for Moiras that DPS all the time. Like, I can understand a little bit, but it's giving a better payoff for those that correctly use what Moira was meant for. Not just DPSing all the time.
Sure.
But, using it to save yourself. Like, if you see a Genji that's like got a little bit of HP and
enough that you could quickly, hopefully,
deflecting.
burst down, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. And you need to do damage to build your healing. And that's where I think that there is a bad sort of reputation, because you're doing it to be able to help your team, but then your teammates look at you like, oh, you're DPSing. It's like, no, I'm trying to do this to help you, because then I don't have my orb's on cooldown. I have nothing in my hand.
Sure.
So I think it's a balanced way of bringing it in.
Okay.
And I like it.
So for this one, I think the way we're going to do the vote is I'm going to ask you guys if you think it's like an overall good change or overall bad change. But so I'm going to play like a bit of devil's advocate on my take, I think, by the way I'm looking at it. But Miali, I think you're leaning towards a good change, right? You're happy with this?
Yes.
Okay.
If it's used correctly, yeah.
The way that I'm looking at this is that I see this as a reward for Moiras that are going to play more aggressively. As like, if they're low on heals and it's a big brawly fight, then some supports, especially in lower ranks, they struggle with like the timing of when to use ults. But this almost feels like a way where it'll be easier to know when to use the ult, because you could just say, oh, I'm out of heals, I'm just going to coalesce. And that would like kind of like naturally reward that more aggressive, forcing an ultimate to be more aggressive playstyle, which I think is a good change, that it would teach people better how to use ultimates, which I think is decent. But I'm worried, and the thing that makes me think it might be a bad change is I'm worried it might actually, it kind of in a way also buff that DPS Moira mentality, like, you know, guns to the wall, we're going to just throw everything at them, let's use an ultimate because we've got it, and it might give me a bit of things back. And also, this might be a hot take, I don't like Moira. I'm not a massive fan of Moira metas. I hate playing against Moira. I find, like, especially Trophy might agree with me on this as a tank player, but playing against Moira is a nightmare. Try and pin Moira as Ryan, she just leaves. Try and slam her, she just leaves. Try and grab her, she just leaves. You flux her, she just leaves.
She's like, I am out.
She just fades out of everything. She just, yeah. And it's like, I see her fade out of things, and I see Reaper with his Wraith and Tracer with her recall just get locked in there.
Paper, she leaves.
Yeah, she just leaves. She takes the wife and kids, she leaves. But it's just, no, I'm not a massive Moira fan, and I just worry that this might put us into a bit more of a Moira Lucio kind of meta, which I don't, as a rush tank, I don't hate, but it's like, I just don't want to see Moira all the time every game, and I just worry that this might, so I'm going to play a bit devil's advocate. I can see how it's a good change as well, but I'm going to say it's not my favourite change, so I'm going to lean more towards bad change, is going to be my take.
Yeah, because I don't play Moira massively. I'm normally I play Moira if I'm asked to.
Very nicely asked.
So
pretty pleased.
it's a case of it works well for how I play Moira.
Sure.
But I understand where you're coming from. It's like, you know, there are people that will just use it aggressively, and you know, a lot of the time coalescence is used to push in, or it's a case of there's too many critical people than what you know what to do with.
Maybe there's like the fear of trying to, you know, the difference for you is like you enjoy playing Moira, I hate playing against Moira. So for me, it's like
I don't massively enjoy it. Like, I'll do it if it needs to be done. I used to enjoy it, but I know I hated her, but I was good as her, and it annoyed me.
This is the most interesting take I've ever heard about Moira. Like, I hate her, but I used to enjoy it, but then I didn't even.
Good with a player.
Yeah. Go on then, Trophy. What's your golden take on Moira? Let's have a look.
Alright, so ultimate cost increased. I like that. That's good, because she's getting her ult way too fast with the orbs. Because remember, last experimental,
they buffed the orbs. Yeah, they're more frequent.
Was also a buff for her. So, you know, I think with the ultimate cost, that's good. I like that one. But the other one, resource regeneration, nah, not a fan of that one.
Okay, so we're on a 50-50 vote. Are you going to swing in favour of good or bad change? Which way are we leaning?
I still see it as a buff for her, so I would say bad.
As a bad change, okay. The Moira hate is coming out strong from the tank players. Yeah, you'll have to see it.
I don't play a lot of Moira. I do play her when needed. Like, yeah, that's it. I'm like Meowly with that, but no, I would never I'm gonna play Moira right now. No, that's.
I see you.
I don't see the fun with her. I just don't.
Go on then, Arctic.
Balls, but.
Arctic, are you going to be Papega with us, or...?
Moira's been a pain in my booty since day one of playing Overwatch.
True.
I don't really like her, but I gotta give credit where it's due and say that Moira, she's a fantastic healer.
That I agree with.
True. Like, she does great in certain comps. She really does, like, just dominates.
She just gets her ult like that. And she with her coach, she could just get her team out of a sticky situation in no time.
Yep.
But I still see this as a buff, which just makes her a little bit more overpowered. I already thought that she was like, just
pretty strong, yeah.
Pretty strong, very high picked. I don't see this as a good thing. I see it as a bad buff.
Okay, so we're 3-1. Support main has been ratioed by the tank players. That's okay. We love to see it. Okay, we'll move on then to Reaper. This one's a really interesting one for me, because I think it just encourages that kind of brawly playstyle, be a bit more aggressive. I think it also adds a bit of an extra element of like the risk versus reward aspect of Reaper, of like, yeah, you might get instantly blown up by 80 different things if you come out of Wraith, but if you get 1 or 2 shots in, you might live a bit longer now because of the 35%. So I think this is... We'll do the same, I think. We'll vote on terms of like good change, bad change. I think this is a good change to Reaper. because it makes Reaper feel a bit more playable in the certain meta, because he wasn't really in the meta at all until like Ryan got his like 50 HP nerf and some other things kind of went that way. But if he's got a bit more of a staying power, way to stay in a fight even if it's low, maybe so supports don't have to like completely focus him down quite as much. I don't know, I see this as a good change. I think I'm happy with this. I like this. As a Reaper player as well, maybe a bit of bias coming from there, but I'm happy with this. Okay. What about you, Trophy? How's your Reaper feeling?
I think it's an unnecessary buff, to be honest, because I remember a time where Reaper had 40%.
Oh really? Was that true? Did you have 40%?
That was true.
40% I remember when you used to have those little like globe orbs that you'd like absorb. Do you remember those?
You had a Reaper every game.
Oh
you had a Reaper every game, and
that's
it was
crazy.
So annoying. Like you could not kill him at all.
He just ate everything. Like a hog walks up to him, hits him once, and then he just instantly gets all of it back.
30% is, doable. You can kill him, but he can kill you. It's like,
Yeah, it seems pretty. But biased maybe towards the Reaper point of view. Maybe that's why my big Reaper fan like pom-poms are coming out to show. But who knows?
I'm looking at it from a tank kind of view.
Yeah, I suppose for a tank, especially like a main tank player, right? Like a Reaper in your face.
Like for support players, it doesn't really matter. Well, maybe. Yeah.
We'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. Go on then, Miali. Let's bounce back at that. What do you think? Do support players matter? Does this opinion have anything?
Support lives matter. Okay.
No, I mean support lives matter, but a Reaper against a support, Reaper would win 9 out of 10
Reaper
times.
won anyway, for the most, depending on how little health he had. But even then, like as a Mercy player, I've struggled so many times against a really low Reaper, and
just
so
can't
I
quite
think
knock him down. Yeah.
As a support player going against a Reaper, I think we will struggle more. But I think as a support player playing with a Reaper, it means that little bit of extra health he can gain, it helps us focus elsewhere instead of worrying a massive amount, because we can give him a little bit of a top up, and if he's hitting the shots, then especially like with a Winston Hog or something, or a Winston Ball, there's so much to hit because they're just such bigger targets that the health regeneration will be a big payoff. But we can just sort of keep an eye on it, and we can focus more into the tanks, into the other DPS. But I think as to go against the Reaper, we are going to struggle.
The main case that I think of actually when I think about it is I think of the famous Brig Reaper 1v1 that usually happens sometimes at the end of a team fight, where it's like the Reaper is constantly getting HP back off Brig, and Brig has to drop shield to hit him at close range, so then she loses HP and she gets HP back because of the Inspire. It's just this constant like attrition duel. But I think that now with this change, obviously Brig is going to struggle a lot more against Reaper, because that close range encounter is probably going to favour him with the regen, and Inspire might not be enough to keep her up to do enough damage. And God, I don't know. I think it's a good change to Reaper in terms of like for Reaper players, but I think it makes him a bit more of a threat, maybe where he didn't have the right to be for other players.
I think he'll bring Anna's back in, because obviously if he's getting that much of an increase, the antis, it's kind of like when Hog had that massive buff, I'd say about 6 months ago, where it was like Hog Zarya.
The Grand Finals buff, yeah, I was going to say the Overwatch Grand Final buff. That was weird.
And then it was always a case of it's a Hog Zarya, but then you'd always have an Ana against, because it was the one thing to bring him down.
Yeah.
It was the one thing. I feel like if you can time it correctly, that he's just done a Wraith, and you then hit him with an anti, obviously the amount of the damage you can outpour into him could be better, because there's nothing to help him. Obviously it's like it anyway, but now I feel that it's more crucial.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have to like really hold on to some of his abilities if he's diving your backline, like really try and keep him in check.
You're gonna have to scout a lot more. You're gonna have to track a lot more.
Yep. Go on then, Arctic. Have you had your take on this? I don't think we have, right?
On Reaper?
On Reaper, did we get your Reaper take? I'm very lost.
No.
No. Okay. Well, yeah. Go on then. I didn't think we did. So what do you think of this Reaper change? Good change, bad change?
Well, Reaper's always been nicknamed the tanker spanker.
True.
the tank killer.
Maybe with slight alterations to the term, but yeah, tanker spanker seems to work.
Just like just two-shot some tanks. This lifesteal change, I'm not a big fan.
Not a big fan. Is that the tank bias coming in, maybe?
Because I've just been feeling like Reaper's just been getting way too much health off of me, like killing me. And now that they increased it, I think we're gonna struggle even more in our games. I'm really not a big fan.
The thing is like I'm aware of this right now that I think about it a lot more. Like I've been Reinhardt against a Reaper and I've swung on him twice and then he hits me twice at the same time and it's like nothing changed. Like I just lost HP. But to be fair, like I really like Reaper. I think this is really cool. So I can't wait to like grab the Devil's Horns and ride around on this guy and buff down some Roadhogs and I don't know. I'm gonna like feed into the. Yeah, I'm gonna jump into the fire with this. Yeah, Are these already live?
Yeah.
Oh my god, we're so late. We're so late. Let's just pretend this is a week ago.
Experimental. These are actual updates.
God, they went live. Oh god.
Yeah.
Yeah, they went live yesterday after the amidst the ping issues.
Well, I cannot wait to. I mean, well, mentally then they went live today because no one really played yesterday when the ping went down, or at least not to the efficient level.
It's new to see how it goes in. Instead of it being experimental, we're seeing it as, these are now live. How are these going to impact quick play and comp instead of just experimental?
No, I cannot wait to have like a Reaper evening and just have fun, maybe with a bit more of a feeder aspect, but that might get rewarded in some cases. Who knows? Who knows? Yeah, I'm going to play Devil's Advocate, big evil, Sylvalia moment. I'm going to ride the devil by the horns and make something happen.
What else is new? What else is new?
Okay, well, we'll move away from me being edgy. Let's go to the last talking point of the stream, and we've been here for quite a while, so we will make it that. The last talking point of the stream, Zarya. I saw this change, and I looked at it and I thought, why? Because realistically, I don't
understand it.
I saw the damage stats. I saw the damage stats. And this is like her overall damage at like different charge percentages. So at 0% she'll do 75 instead of 95 per second. But at full she'll do peak 170 the same. So I think what it means is that when you're at 0 she does 20 less. But when you're like 50 she does like 1 damage less per second. And when you're at full it's the same. So it really just makes it more important to get off the 0% base mark is what I can see it as. But I don't think it's too much of a change that you're going to notice. Is all I'm thinking. I want to start with Arctic on this one because he's obviously the resident Zarya player. Arctic, do you think this is actually going to make a difference to you, or do you think that Zarya is still going to be pretty much exactly where she was?
Not really, because at the beginning of most games I just start out by bubbling my Rhine and he goes in. So like from the
easy
start,
40 charges to begin with. Yeah, I was going to say you already got 80 charges when you start. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, from the start I'm going to be a high charge, and as the game goes on I'm just going to keep my charge. To me, it's not going to make a difference. Other people, maybe. I'm not too sure.
Well, I mean, that's a interesting thing. I might think that there might even be like this might also be like a rank-based change, where maybe in low ranks everyone just shoots everything, so Zarya bubble always on 80 charge at the start. Maybe in higher ranks people are a lot more like scared of shooting Zarya because they know the power that she can do, so she might stay a bit lower for longer. You know, maybe Orion won't charge in out of the doors and get 40. You don't know, like
who would ever do that?
Well, let's not point too many fingers.
What you mean?
It's like that Spider-Man moment when we're all just sat pointing at each other, like everyone's a feeder Ryan in this lobby. No, it's okay. Okay, so what you think? It's
I would never.
Do you think it's a good change or a bad change then?
I think it's a bad change because it wouldn't really make a difference for me.
Yeah, I suppose.
It might make a change in like higher ranks, but in my rank, no.
But I still think it's like if their goal is to try and like reduce her beam's average damage, I don't think this is really the way of doing it, because I think that it doesn't really.
Maybe if they changed the maximum damage and lowered it a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, why is that not lowered? Like, I swear that's what they were trying to do, but they just didn't quite even do that.
Yeah, because Zarya at full charge, she does an insane amount of damage.
It's ridiculous. Already. It's literally crazy.
And the sound of the beam,
I love it so
music
much.
to my ears.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll get rid of that music for just a moment. Trophy, as the Reinhardt. Let's say that you're the Reinhardt representative at the moment.
I've been into Zarya lately, so.
Oh, okay. Well, a PG stream. Let's we keep it PG. No, I mean, 3 minutes to go. Let's go.
I've been playing her a lot more, and I liked the damage, but I think this will only matter when your charge isn't above or isn't below. Wait, I'm saying it wrong.
It's okay. We all understand.
If you get 0 charge like the entire time, then you'll notice it. But if you're like on 60 or 70 charge the entire time, then you would not notice it.
Maybe there's a world where there's an incentive to like try not to die as much as Zarya, maybe try and keep the charge, maybe back out of a fight earlier so that you can keep a bit for the next fight, not coming back as 0 because that might be a bit, weaker of a start for you. Maybe if their Zarya keeps all their charge, then...
And they already nerfed her last time when your energy goes lower faster.
Oh yeah, that is true, isn't it? They already knocked down the ticker rate, haven't they? God.
Yeah. So I think this is it's a bad nerf. I don't like it.
Bad change. Okay then, Meowly, the final verdict of the stream. What do we think? Zarya change, good or bad?
I think it's gonna help with bubble management. Mm-hmm. Instead of just throwing both bubbles out, it will make you want to actually work on your timing, because I'm someone who will wait until my personal bubble is about half charge to then bubble somebody and keep it on a consistent loop so that I can keep my charge consistent. So I think it's a good thing to have the damage more spread out instead of like the smaller gap of 95 to 170. Like, it's to make more payoff, I think.
Yeah, it makes those opening bubbles crucial, doesn't it, that you get them right, I think.
Yes, and it's a case of, it's to show if you're truly actually getting the payoff as that character. Because if people are very self-aware and do not shoot your bubbles, then it's going to be like, oh, there's no point doing this because I'm not getting the charge I need, which means I can't get the damage I need to bring
better switches coming in if it was a proper game environment. Okay, so
I think it's more of a balance to the damage, but it's again for the lower ranks, it's a case of everyone just shoots because they just shoot.
True.
They just think
they can. There is a Junkrat on the field and you have 80 charge within 3 seconds, is the way I usually say it.
You have an OG on the field. Huh?
Yep. OG, you are contributing to feeding Zarya charge. That's okay. Okay.
I think it's to encourage better management.
So for you, is that a good change then? That you think that...
I mean, it's how I work anyway, so to me it's no different.
Oh, okay, so for you it's a fantastic
change.
But I think
for those especially newer players to Zarya, because it took me a long time to get into Zarya, because I couldn't figure out how to keep the charge consistent.
True.
And then a friend of mine taught me it. And I can't play any differently. I'm always making sure I'm bubbling the right people that are getting the amount of damage that can properly charge my bubbles, but then I'm keeping them timed. I don't like to have both of them ready to go.
OG's just put in a chat.
I feel like
he's going to make sure that Zarya's going to stay playable. No, I understand that, and I think Zarya will make it work in certain comps. Go on, Arctic. What were you going to say?
I was going to say I'm quite the opposite. I just keep my bubbles in case of, like, for example, I keep my my other bubble in case my Ana, for example, gets hooked, and I'll just like quickly turn around and bubble her. You know what I'm saying? I'll just keep them for emergencies.
So you never use the bubble, only for the Ana?
I do. No. It's like Ryan is charging, and
that explains why Trophy's been dying so much in your duo stacks. He's saving it for them. No, I'm joking. But I think the point that Arctic makes is actually really good. Like, I think that your bubble management also depends a lot about what you're playing against. If there's a hog there, then maybe you've got hog v hog in the lovely meta that I hate so much. Maybe you've got hog v hog, and then the bubble management in that meta is like really important because it's bubble diff if your hog lives or dies. So maybe that. But if they're playing pure dive, then peeling for the backline, like you said, like throwing it onto an Ana, it probably is also really important. It's swings and roundabouts with Zarya, but I think we can all agree that this is a relatively okay change. We're not too mad with it. I think it's fine. Okay then. Well then, guys, that has been a lengthy period of time. I was not expecting that to go quite for as long as it did, but I'm actually really glad. We've got some fantastic discussion points in there. I've massively enjoyed. Thank you all so much for joining me. This has been amazing. This would not have been anywhere near as enjoyable or fun. Thank you for volunteering, even midstream. We're always happy to have people on. Thank you, Trophy and Arctic. You've been very committed members. I will let you have evenings now. I promise you can now go have nights with your family, friends. You can see daylight again. You can be released from the podcast. But thank you so much. I would have you back on any time. Honestly, we had such an amazing time. Thank you, everyone in the stream. We've had a consistent amount of viewers today, which has been beautiful. I've seen the chat ticking on the whole time. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. comments and support. We've read all of them. Might have not replied to all of them, but we've read all of them. Really do appreciate it. And yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed the stream. This will be uploaded onto the Knee Healing YouTube, which I will link in the somewhere on Discord, and people will be able to see it, I promise. And yeah, so for everyone, that is it from us for now. Our Overwatch 2 takes are over, and we will see you guys soon. Be sure to follow the Trophy Chef on Twitch as well if you haven't already. And Meowly. And please like and subscribe, like and follow and subscribe and money. Yes, thank you. Bye.